Good evening. The Board of Education is back from executive session. And that will move us into agenda item 4, which is communications. And the only communication that I know of, I don't think CFT is here, is you, Dr. Boozer. I will turn this over to you. How are our kids doing?
Thank you. Well, good evening. And I'm going to actually think I'm going to do this right today, maybe. Yeah. Okay. So it is a new day for learning in Unit 4, and it's a great day in Unit 4. Got quite a bit for you today, a lot of celebrations and things we got going on in our schools. Yeah. Here we go. Whoops. So one of our celebrations we want to start off with is we want to honor our National Hispanic Heritage Month. It started September 15th and it goes through October 15th. And so I'm just excited about all the work we're doing and honoring our Hispanic Heritage Month. And actually, we have that month, but we want to honor them and all of our students and our staff all year long, but this is a special time here. Also want to celebrate our Centennial Marching Band. They won the Monticello Marching Band competition, yes. If you have not ever had a chance to watch these young ladies and these young men, these young people, as they are taking the stage at Centennial, watching them on the field is amazing. And just watching them gives me life. The excitement they have is an opportunity for some of our most quiet students who don't get an opportunity to really shine a lot. They really come forth during this marching band time. So watch them in the games in the stand is exciting. So job well done. These are some of my newest adopted babies. Next celebration, I want to say kudos to the Central High School seniors for completing part 1 of the AVID peer tutoring training session. So with leaders like this, I know we are in good hands in Unit 4, so yes. And if you didn't know, AVID is my goal to have district-wide, elementary all the way through. And so I just want to give kudos to our Central High School and to Dr. Angela Ward and Miss Brenda Taylor for leading this charge as well. Another celebration, we want to celebrate Unit 4 student groups as they participated in the CU Pride Fest on this past weekend. So look at all the beautiful pictures and all those faces. So really excited about this celebration. The next celebration is September 21st was gold medalist Nicole Millage, I believe is how you say her name, day in Champaign. She is a Centennial High School alum and the 4-time Paralympian, I said it right, won a gold medal at the 2020 Paralympics. So shout out to another one of our Unit 4 alumni. A lot of great things going on. Some things don't change, just the date. We still need you. Unit 4 is seeking input from our community regarding the use of its American Recovery Plan funds, the ESSER 3. This is part of our communication plan. So we are looking to have input from our community members on how we spend those dollars. And so Linda and I believe Rhonda will be leading these conversations. So looking for your input. So the first input session will be in person Tuesday, October 5th at 5:30 right here in the Mellon Building. So if you want to be a part of that session, meet us here at 5:30 on October 5th. It's a Tuesday to help give some input on how we can plan to use these dollars. And the second input session is going to be virtual, and it's on Tuesday, October 12th at 5:30, and the sign-up is available. Well, the sign-up will be coming soon, and it's going to be on our website, www.champaignschools.org, so look for that as well. All righty, all things COVID. COVID is still here, but we're doing well in our system. We're going to have a vaccination clinic. We're going to have a couple of them going on, and a couple of locations, actually 3 locations. So the first one I want to talk about is going to be held on Thursdays and Fridays, and the dates are posted here, and we'll also put this information on our website. They're going to be held at Central and Centennial in the student common area. So we've got all through October. Actually, we're starting September 30th, and they're going to run through on Thursdays and Fridays in the month of October. And it's going to be from 3:30 to 5:30. We're also going to hold one also at the Transportation Department. It's going to be in an outdoor tent, and where those are also being on Thursdays or Friday or both. And it's October 7th and 8th, and then again the 22nd and 29th. And those are going to be a little longer in time period. It'll be from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And IDPH is helping with all of this work. So students must be accompanied by a consenting parent or guardian. Permission slips are also going to be provided through IDPH, and so staff and community are welcome to be vaccinated as well. So if you see the common theme and message here, we do believe in vaccination is one of our key ways in which that we can keep COVID and we can keep our schools open. We know our students do better, most of them, when we are in school and in session. The next one is information about shield testing. I have received quite a few emails in the past month or so asking about shield testing, and so we began working on that, and Dr. Harden is leading the charge for us in our district. And so consent forms were adopted and approved. We have consent forms that will be sent to parents via DocuSign. So that's an electronic digital envelope, so that no sensitive information will be compromised. Those forms are set to be sent out to parents on Thursday. And we have viewed and the collection of data entry processes that we're going to use some of our nearby school districts. So we've been talking to them to see how things are going, and we're going to see if we can emulate the things they've been doing as well. Our third-party partner was assigned by Shield Illinois, so we're waiting for them to come out and assess the physical layout of our school testing sites, and we're expected to have that completed by October 7th. And we're currently working with Shield and the community groups to assist us with staffing and transporting vials. The reason this is taking a little longer is because we need a lot of volunteers to get this work done. You have to actually get the little folks, get their little saliva in the container, but you can only start it from grades third through up. And then we have to transport that to our nearest location, which I believe is in Decatur. So that's one of the reasons why it's taken us a little long time. You know, logistics, it sounds good, but, you know, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I can say the 1 hour.
Yes.
Eat or drink 1 hour per.
Right, that's the other piece. Cranky children, if you can't eat or drink for 1 hour before you take the assessment, or yeah, whatever you want to call it, spit in the little tube. Anything that you wanted? Okay. All right, so we're currently working with our IT department to create a system for labeling the saliva collecting vials. So just want to give you an update on that. So to the topic at hand that I also want to make sure that we address. Safety and security. We have hit some roadblocks and some barriers along the way since the opening of school, and we acknowledge that. And I just want to get everyone to understand that it's not either or, it's both. So we have to have safety and security measures in place in order for us to run a school district, have our students in classrooms where they're actually learning, and our teachers can be in the classrooms doing what they love to do, and that's teach. So we want to make sure that we address both of these. It's a new day. It's a new day and age. It's the climate in which we live in, so we have to acknowledge it. So with that being said, when I looked at our strategic plan, we talk about excellence, equity, and educational justice. So that's where a lot of this is coming from. So when we talk about in Unit 4 that we're committed to excellence, straight from the strategic plan, it reminds us that it's time to tackle our systems inequities head on. It's time to seek out and destroy biases, structures, and practices that serve as barriers to opportunity for our students. It's time to get clear about what excellence looks like in our classrooms and schools, and to build our capacity as a system to deliver it to each of our students every day. Dr. Boozer, why are you saying this? I'm saying it because if students don't have high expectations of them, that means coming to class. That means when you're at school, go to class. That means being respectful. That's for all of us. If we don't teach these things, for whatever reason we have in our mind as to why we don't want to do this, shame on us, because it is not helping us tackle our systems of inequity. We need our students in the classrooms so they can learn, but our teachers also deserve to have respect so that they can actually teach. But it goes both ways. So it's not just students, it's not just staff, it's a community issue that we need to address. So we want to make sure we're doing these things. So that's what excellence looks like, making sure our students are in an environment that they can feel safe and secure to learn, to be their authentic selves, and that our staff members can also feel safe and secure and be their authentic selves and be in a position where they actually can teach. So I'm just going by what I'm looking at in a strategic plan. A lot of this was put in place before I got here, and I also want to make sure that I address it, and I'm doing the job that I was brought on to do. Core value is one of our core values is devoted to safe and dynamic learning environments. We believe that the safety and well-being of our students, families, and staff come before anything else. We also believe that our schools must be places that inspire students and staff to explore, experiment, and learn. So that means we have to put safety and security measures in place in order for this to happen. This is a core value that's straight out of our strategic plan that I inherited, and I'm so excited about it. The strategic plan is what drew me here, and I want to help make it come to life. So I am, and my staff is, devoted to safe and dynamic learning environments, and we will do what we need to do to make sure it happens. The next piece to this is just a couple of things to remind what we put in place already. Security is a process for ensuring safety. So sometimes we have to do things to bring safety in order for our students and our staff to feel safe, to be who they want to be and need to be and deserve to be. They deserve to be in a learning environment that values them. They deserve to be in a learning environment that is safe from outside forces. There's a lot of community issues and violence that is happening that bothers me. It is disheartening, and our students are bringing a lot of those things to school with them, whether they have been impacted by it, a direct impact from their families or their friends, or because they don't understand what's happening, and it's causing them to be insecure, anxious, and our students deserve better than that. So we've put some things in place to help with that. And I know some people think that it's policing, but it is considered security. We're in a different age than when I was in school. So we have to realize that it's time for us to move into this century and where we are, that we have to do things a little bit different. Does it make us racist? No. It makes us individuals who are concerned about the well-being of all of our students and all of our staff members. So with that, we've put some proactive measures in place as well, some proactive social and emotional supports for our students and for our staff. We have high-quality Tier 1 whole group. We've got advisory. We have homeroom. We have guidance lessons. We are looking at increasing and enhancing our bullying prevention programs. We're looking at restorative practices, which we'll talk about, and we have a great presentation for you later on in our board meeting. We've got CASEL standards that we're looking at that talks about awareness, management, empathy, and decisions. These are some things that nowadays some of our students just don't embrace or know, and it's our responsibility as the adults in this system to make sure that we provide this high-quality Tier 1 instruction and support for our students, social and emotional. The past 16, 18 months with the pandemic has been very difficult. We're looking at several types of pandemics. We've got the pandemic of COVID. We have the pandemic of racism that our students saw. It's been there, but COVID just exposed it even more. We have the pandemic of social economic disparities. Our students and families have lost jobs and they've lost loved ones. They've got all these kind of things going on. And so we have to think about that and how do we address it. So that's why a lot of students are bringing extra things to school with them that we're not used to, and so we have to be prepared to address them. Some of our students bring in anger to school, and I've been over at Centennial along with my staff every day for the past week, and then some. I think I have some new children that I did not birth that are now mine at Centennial. And they're because we care. Our staff are not by themselves doing this. Our students are not by themselves doing this work. We have to be there with them and help them along the way. We have a lot of resources at our fingertips, but learning how to bring them all together has been a work in progress. So we're also talking about specific Tier 2 small group work, looking at our data. We've identified students who need extra support, and we're giving that to them. We're having conversations with them and with their families and with teachers and making sure that we provide the supports that our students need. Everyone cannot thrive in a large environment. So we're using data to help with that. We're also bringing a student commission to the table where we're all going to be looking at a small group of students who just need that extra support, who have leadership skills, but for some reason don't realize it because other factors have been impeding that. And so we'll help them to bring that out in them as well. So that's going to involve administration, community partnerships, social workers, counselors, so things of that nature. Then it also takes it down to even a smaller group, which is our targeted individual supports. We have so many people in the community and organizations who've reached out and said, Dr. Boozer, how can we help? So that means how do we bring more supports into the schools? How do we get referrals for our families and our students and our staff? Because we also have staff members who are hurting as well, and we want to make sure we're supporting them. So how do we identify the students and assign them to personalized interventions is part of the work that we have going on as well. How we got here did not happen overnight. So the work we're going to do is not going to happen overnight. It has to be intentional, and it has to be targeted, and it has to be infused with equity. And we cannot look at giving everyone the same thing because we all don't need the same thing. We all have different issues and different needs, and we need to pull all those things out. So some of the comprehensive safety measures we're talking about, safety has both an emotional and a physical attributes attached to them. So we've talked about the security, the physical side of it, but we also need to talk about the social and emotional side of it, building connections and relationships, teaching social and emotional learning standards. Illinois is one of the few states that actually has learning standards that's around social and emotional learning. We are going to host various trauma-informed workshops with a lens on healing. And that is something that I've been seeing for the past couple months since I've moved here. There's a lot of healing that needs to takes place in this community. I can't do or undo anything that's happened in the community as much as I wish I could, but I'm in charge of making sure that Unit 4 has an opportunity to heal. And I'm charged to do that. I want to do that. I look forward to doing that, and I have the supports around me to do such thing with all the families, staff members, community organizations. We can do this. Increasing our panorama usage. We've got this data to help us when we take our students are self-reporting what they need, and we can provide it with it. We are also I'm having student roundtables to capture student voices. I've already talked to a few students. I've identified students who I want to be a part of that conversation. I need to put the power where the pain is. And our students are in some serious pain right now. And I need to make sure I put power there and capture their voices. Couple of parents I met today at Centennial who are crying out for help. It is our responsibility to hear them and to give them the supports that they need. So with that being said, some parent advisory committees as well. From the parents whose voices are traditionally marginalized, I want to speak to you. I need to hear your voice. We have a lot of people who are standing in the gap and have answers, but I need to hear from those families who are directly impacted by a lot of the violence that's happening outside of our schools, as well as hear from the families and the kids who are also impacted by the violence one way or another. If you're bringing it in or you're witnessing to it, how do I bring your voice to the table? I need to hear from my kids. Making connections with our LIFT program, Operation Hope Junior, Had several meetings already. We've already started some plans and putting in place. We've got some established wellness centers that I'm not even sure families understand they're in our high schools. They're beautiful, they're wonderful. So how do we tap into what's already in our buildings, those wellness centers? Dynamic counseling and support services, and an ongoing initiative including restorative practices. So those are some of the things that I have for you. And then I had some board questions. I told you I had quite a bit. I've been busy, very busy, and I'm not complaining. I'm enjoying every moment of it. Dr. Harden is working closely with also our consultant for Scott Joftis and 4 Points, and we've been working on drafting a Wellness Works program to promote wellness for our educators, staff, and students and families. And so we'll be bringing more information about that to you. And it's going to take some time and some effort. We're going to have to reallocate some of our time during the day. We're going to have to look at implementing and changing some of our curriculum maps to approach some of our MTSS and RTI work. When I say it's extensive, it's extensive. So we'll be bringing to you more reports on how the work and what it looks like. Bringing the data forward to you. We'll have some forward-facing data that we can show our community around the work that we're going to be doing. But relationships is key. Relationships, relationships, relationships. We can put all these other things in place, but if our students don't feel like they belong or they don't feel like they're connected, then that's part of our issue. We're also looking at maybe perhaps do we have a different setting within the school or outside the school for our students, but how do we intentionally connect them and keep them connected so they have a sense of belonging? When you don't feel like you belong, it changes who we are sometimes. So we have to understand and do that. So I'm thankful to my board for allowing me to have the opportunity to put forth some things that are needed in Unit 4. It's been an extensive assessment of things that need to take place, and we've already started some of those things. So final last parts of this is some questions that came from my board that I want to kind of give you some answers to. So I believe in if one asks the question, all deserves an answer. So homecoming, where are we with the both schools and reasoning, especially as large schools in our region have held them? When we talked about homecoming with the building principals, it was decided they could have the game and then we would look toward having a homecoming dance at another time, because at the time we talked about it, all the tents for outside events were all taken and things of that nature. So I really prefer that this question be given back to our high school principals, because this is really in their purview. They just asked us for some support in it, and we were all fine with it. Nothing was canceled, it was postponed. So they're gonna continue working with their staff and their students in addressing that. So any other questions about that, I prefer you talk to our building principals on that. Safety and security. How can parents stay up to date? How we are making sure we have correct info, PA systems at Centennial, et cetera. And that's interesting. The whole PA system issue was 2019 talking to a 2021 PA system, so it wasn't that it wasn't working, it just they weren't connected all the way. So in parts of it, it worked on this end, another part didn't work on this side, or when we tested it in the past, before students were there, you could hear. But we forgot to test when you have students all over the place. So that was part of it. So when you have all the kiddos in the building, it makes a difference. So we got that rectified. They work wonderful, no problem. We also, for as the security pieces, we are competing. We have finally realized email is now the new snail mail. Okay, remember when you put something in the mail, that was snail mail, and email electronic, it was the quick way. Well, we are looking now at, I believe it may be Rave or something like that, that we can do instant text messages, because we found out we were competing with text messages. And I know people who can text and not look at their phone, and a little thumb is going on, and I'm like, trying to figure out how to get it in there, how to text real quick, it's interesting. So that is coming really soon, so that will be turned on to make sure that we get text messages to our staff, our students, and to our parents. So it'll be quick time, but if we're talking about communication and getting specifics, we're not going to be able to tell you every little detail, because I need people to understand, especially my families, understand when you're in the moment of something happening, your priority is making sure all the students and the staff are safe. That is your number one priority. then getting the message and the information out there. We're definitely working on that too, but I have to make sure my students and my staff are okay. So please forgive me on that one, but I'm not going to waver on that. And we were going to get that text message information to you and get information to you quickly. But if the CPD or someone tells us we cannot give out this such information, I have to follow that. Okay. The other question is, let's see. Oh, the board. I love you all. Questions around iBarge. So we're going to be presenting iBarge later on this evening. And so this is really connected to our work around our Black and our brown students who are most marginalized, is at the center of this work, but it's for everyone. But we're looking at it through an equity lens, so we want to make sure that we do that as well. So they'll present that because our Black and brown families have told us that they need people that they can trust, and so we want to make sure that we do that. We're not thinking about rolling all this out at one time, so we're going to do it in some phases. So part of it is making sure that my board understands the process, not that you have to do it, but just so you understand it, and that I understand it. But we're really looking at starting with administrators, understand the process, starting with our board members, making sure we understand the process. And then we're talking about, because we know subs is an issue right now, trying to get subs for PD. So we're not looking at that right now. We're just looking at how do we make sure our administrators understand the process. And so our students will also, those who are especially, we're looking at student leaders. So those students who are a part of the roundtable will be also able to receive some of the training and understand it, and they can take that conversation back to the building. We're trying to build leaders in our system, in our school system, and students lead well. When given a task, they do a better job than I do. Most days. And so we know the workload is heavy, and in order for us to shift in our district, we have to start thinking different, and we have to be willing to say, okay, it's time for me to do something different now. And so we're already doing this work, we're already lifting heavy, but we have to have the resources and the tools and the strategies to help us to get the work done. So with that being said, we're going to be looking at getting multiple voices. We're also going to take this training out to our community as well, so our families and our parents understand when we say restorative practices, what are we talking about? And as the board and my team are helping us, we're going to help work through with the metrics and how we're going to measure the outcomes. I'm a very outcome-driven person, so I don't like to say we're going to do X, Y, Z without having a plan as to how do we know it's working. So we're going to do that. And so those are some of the questions that came to me from the board. And so the accountability piece is something we will put into the process. So I know I said a lot. It's a whole bunch. And also the iBarge work will also connect perfectly with our SEL work. So Dr. Harden and Mr. Orlando Thomas are my two central office folks who will be in charge of this work, along with Dr. Angela Ward from the equity aspect of it. Okay? I'm tired now of all this talking, but I had a lot to say. So thank you. Do you have any questions for me? Okay. All right. Good. Either you don't have any questions or you're tired of me talking.
I've had enough time to talk.
Okay.
Right. We'll process it and send you
Okay.
more questions.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Boozer.
Yes.
That will move us into agenda item 5, which is reports, new business. Item A is the administrator and teacher salaries reporting. Turn this over to Mr. Ken Kleber.
All right, good evening. So, in accordance with the Illinois School Code, we are required every year to report our administrator and teacher salary and benefits to ISB by October 1st. And we're required to present it to you at a board meeting before we post it on our website. And so, to comply with the law, we use what's called the Employee Information System, which is provided by ISB. There's an attachment on the agenda that is generated through EIS. There are certain positions, instructional coaches, school counselors, social workers, non-licensed administrators, and many others that are not on the report because that's what ISB mandates. And so the document will be placed on our website and uploaded to ISB as required. There is another report under the Open Meetings Act that we're required to post on our website. The total compensation package of all employees having a total compensation that exceeds $75,000 per year within 6 business days after approval of the budget. So later this evening, you're scheduled to look at the budget, and if you approve the budget, we will comply with that posting requirement as well and upload both documents. And that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Kleber. Any questions? Okay. That will move us into item 6, which is a public hearing for the fiscal year budget 2022. Do I have a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
Second. Soteropoulos, Shannon. Tammy, would you call roll?
Ms. Soteropoulos?
Yes.
Ms. Shannon?
Yes.
Ms. Armstrong?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Vasquez?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. I will turn this over to you, Ms. Matkowski. You gonna turn her mic up?
All right, try this again. I feel like we talk about the budget a lot. So we're going to talk about it again. So every year that a school district adopts a budget, it walks through the budget process. We have several meetings prior to getting to the public hearing. Public hearing is a part of the process. Tonight, after the public hearing, board will have an opportunity to pass the budget so that we can get that up to the state board. As a reminder, we typically do an amended budget as we get in later into the fiscal year, mostly because we have changes that happen through the course of the year. We want to capture those changes and also make sure that those changes are handled publicly. Let's see if I can, okay. For many folks, this has got very similar conversations to the ones we had last week at the Finance Committee meeting. So as a reminder, for school districts in Illinois, revenues are comprised of 3 sources: local sources, which are predominantly property taxes; state sources, which are predominantly the evidence-based funding, or what used to be called the old general state aid formula. And in the federal piece, generally most districts either have title money or IDEA special ed money. This year and for the next several successive years, school districts will also have a portion of their budget that is coming through the ESSER grants, or as we referred to it earlier today, the ARP money, which is the American Recovery Plan. And so that money will factor into the district's budget. The ARP money, just as a pre-commercial on this, if you will, or a pre-commercial on this, that money has to be spent on very specific educational outcomes and goals and COVID safety precautionary measures. So there is a very specific set of circumstances that we'll be able to use that money. Mostly it is for additional learning acceleration, additional tutoring for students, additional opportunities for students in certain student population groups to be able to receive additional either academic or SEL supports. And then on the safety piece, from a COVID standpoint, improvement of HVAC systems, improvement of additional instructional space in order to safely space out students. So you'll see as we walk through the public meetings for that funding that will provide additional sort of clarification from the federal government on how that money can be spent. So more to come on that. With respect to the revenues for the school district on the upcoming budget, property tax accruals Remember, those are going to be factoring in. We'll see that later on when we talk about fund balance reserves. We received more money in June and July than we anticipated. That money actually went into the fiscal '21 budget. So we'll see a little less of it when we come into the fiscal '22 budget, and those two fiscal cycles will even themselves out from a property tax standpoint. We've also reduced in the budget, you'll notice, the local fees. If the board recalls, we passed resolutions which basically eliminated registration fees for families. All families are eligible for free and reduced lunch services this year as a part of the American Recovery Plan Act. So families are receiving free lunch food, free breakfast opportunities, snacks, additional things like that. With that, we also reduced fees for students just really coming out of a COVID recovery place, also because we had additional funding in the budget that we could help absorb that. Corporate personal property tax will continue to come in strong. Part of this is the recovery that we've seen on the corporate side, so we get some money from that, so that'll help. You'll see that in the budget. And then on the capital project side and on the debt side, you'll see improved behavior on the school facility sales tax revenue. That has really come back into the process that we thought it was going to be back in 2019 when we were looking at how to spend those funds. As a reminder, those funds can either be spent on debt service for projects that the district had undertaken earlier. It can also be used once we clear the debt. Any of the extra money that we have each year is reapplied in towards the long-range capital facility planning project, so we'll always have a small amount of money every year that we'll be able to use towards those types of projects. Evidence-based funding dollars are flat this year from the state. We anticipated that. We don't anticipate any disruption this year from the state as we maybe would have had in previous years, mainly because the state also received a significant amount of federal funding, which helped to really stabilize their budget. Federal grants, we had some small increases in our title funding. And then the board will note the ESSER 2 funds, which were the second round of funding. And then the ESSER 3 funds I've allocated proportionately through the budgets so that we've got it for successive coming years. On the expenditure side, just as a reminder to the board, we have about 17,000 budget lines on the expenditure side. So there's a lot of different lines to keep track of. We were way ahead of the process in being able to do discrete site-based processing, and so that's really helped us in the current position with both the state and the federal government, because we can drill in very, very tightly into a building to actually look at what their spending behavior is and then make adjustments to the operating activity within that building based on sort of making sure that the balance of what their programming needs are and their student population is versus the resources that they have available to do that with. So if we have to shift money from the local side over to help support a building, we can do that fairly with some ease. Bigger expenditures with respect to this budget. Overall budget increases of $8 million for both salary and benefits. That's across all of our funds. Does take into account new hires that we're making in the teaching and learning space, the technology space, and the safety and security space. So we've gone through the process of looking at new FTEs based on where the needs of the district are, and we've made sure that there's sufficient sources to be able to cover those hires. We also looked at the impact of finalizing the collective bargaining agreements for both unions and just the provisions for the replacement of the open staff positions that we do have. So everything is tucked into the budget that needs to from a salary and benefit standpoint. Purchase services decreased 41 million. There's a lot of noise in our budget, and there will be for another probably 2 years with respect to construction, because construction expenditures show up in that purchase service line. So as we complete projects, we're spending less. So if you look historically, it looks like purchase services making this big, huge drop down. It's not really, it's just the completion of those construction projects. Supplies and materials increased $2 million, mostly due to increased expenditures in the education fund, really in instructional supplies and materials for students and staff, as well as expenses associated with transportation. In the restricted capital projects account, we'll continue to spend that balance down. However, we are continuing with the board. This will be the final year for the board to make the $10 million contribution from the ed fund over to capital projects in order to be able to get that finished. And then projected increases in spending also take into account sort of some bigger goals we had established. So the goal of continuing the one-to-one computing for students and staff, the additional community engagement activities. So this is activities that we are looking at to support not only what's happening within our schools, but also within our communities, the things that we feel are important in order to enhance instructional activities within our buildings. To further our equity focus, looking at both expenditures and opportunities, and then the costs that are associated with safety and security. So you will notice significant increases in the tort fund. So this is the fund that pays for safety and security activities. You'll notice additional increases in education around the technology side of the budget. O&M really related to securing our buildings, both from a traditional security standpoint as well as from COVID, improvements in HVAC, et cetera. And then the transportation fund in order to make sure that we've got sufficient funding available to handle the transportation. Revenues by fund, this is a bigger overall picture. You'll notice the change in the ed fund, actually the change in all of the funds, is reflective of the noise with the property tax receipts. So again, remember, we're picking up a smaller number in fiscal '22 because we picked up a much bigger number in fiscal '21. So those just have to level themselves back out. This next couple of slides, the board has seen a few times before. This is really the breakout by fund of where the revenue is coming from sources, so local, state, or federal. So you can see we're picking up some very nice increases in revenue. We are absolutely unequivocally dependent on our local property taxes, and so we've got a very good tax base. We're fortunate. We've seen some really nice economic development. The city has really helped, so has Savoy, with respect to really being able to bring in good businesses. Those really help us from a property tax standpoint. So each of the funds has picked up some additional property tax revenue, and that's definitely helped. The education fund really is the one fund that picks up both the state money as well as the federal money. And then you can see, for example, transportation has some transportation reimbursement that comes back from the state. That money is going to be significantly decreased from a revenue standpoint because we transported less last year. And so that's just a reflection of the numbers of students and the numbers of miles we transported last year. On the non-operating funds, again, this will come back when we talk about the tort fund. You'll notice that the tort fund revenue, because of property taxes, we didn't anticipate needing to move as much into tort when we struck the levy last year. So we pushed some money into the ed fund. We'll push money back out of the ed fund over to the tort fund in order to be able to handle the increased expenditures. So we're going to talk a little bit about the education fund. I was trying to think of a way to make this a little easier for everyone to consider what happens when we talk about expenditure functions. And you've heard me refer to this before as the functions sort of start with the student in the center. And the further out you go, the less direct between 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock every day sort of impact you're having. All of it's important, all of it fits. It's just we always want to keep in mind who's actually sitting in the direct center. So when we talk about expenditures, you'll see us talk through the instructional expenses, which are really direct. These are teachers, textbooks, things that are directly happening in a student's classroom. When we talk about support services, we're talking about that next layer out. These are the things that support a student, support the district, but maybe aren't necessarily happening in an individual classroom. So think of these as the building types of expenses. Community service are where we place all of the expenditures that are really the things that help support what we do in the community. So these are things that maybe wrap around our students, but aren't necessarily in a classroom. So this is how this goes out that way. Payments to other governments are generally when these are typically special ed types of expenditures where we're tuitioning a student out into another district. And then debt service, which is really, when you think about what debt service is used for, it's the envelope of the building. So this is the farthest away from an actual internal classroom. So as we walk through the expenditure side, for the board, you will note this budget in particular, we're going to run 3 of the funds in the operating side with deficits. So $1.2 million in the ed fund, $2 million in transportation, and about $775,000 in tort. So when we get to the fund balance page, you'll understand why we're okay doing that. This is the year we really want to spend to make sure that we are covering both the expenditures that are necessary for students and the expenditures for staff. So again, you can see under those function totals within each of the funds, the relative value of how we're spending funds. So the majority of the district's funds, the vast majority of the district's funds, are actually expended directly in the classroom for activities that directly affect students. You've seen this before. This is my sort of teacher explanation of how to think about school finance when we really talk about what it is we're doing. So you think about it like a layer cake. So you start with the fund, right? So what are we actually spending that money on? Is it an education activity? Is it a transportation activity? Is it a building activity? And then you start moving it up into the function. Is it something that's going to directly affect the student? Is it going to wrap around and support the student? Is it going to pay debt for a building? Then you think about the object, right? So then you're drilling in. What's that expense actually doing? Is it paying for salary? Is it paying for purchase services? Is it buying a supply? And then because we did this very early in comparison to other Illinois school districts, we actually have a location code. So we can take all that data and drill it right into a specific space. So we can look at that data, in terms of what we're actually doing in that building. And then we talked about this in finance. It gives us this great opportunity then to sit back and say, do we have the right resources and the right expenditures happening in these buildings based on the students that are attending? So this is where, if you're a data person, this is where it gets super fun, because you can start looking at the data and how the students are coming into these schools and into these buildings, into these classrooms, and then how we're providing the support for these students either with the revenue or with the expenditure. This is expenditures by object. Different way to think about this, but this is typically for people that are very more corporate-minded. This is how they're thinking. So salaries, benefits, purchase services. This is more of a corporate look, if you will, at our budget and the history of our budget. So you will notice salaries have been going up every year. They will. Benefits have stayed relatively tight over the last several years. That's good bargaining on the part of the folks that are really looking at insurance and insurance services. Purchase services, again, noisy because of construction, so you have to do a little bit more pulling out and dicing in a fund. Supplies and materials, we are spending more money because we have more money. We are putting our money out there to really spend it on students. It doesn't do anybody any good to take it with us. Capital outlay, these are going to be minor capital outlays, so this is not the referendum construction stuff. This is fixing carpeting in a school. It's repairing a window that broke. It's fixing doors that might have been damaged. And then obviously other and non-equipment, non-cap equipment. For the board, this is probably the most important slide because this is really the fund balance. So these are our reserves. Little bit tricky at this particular moment because we are waiting for the accruals to come back from our auditors on how they are actually going to set the accruals up for the property taxes. We took a really strong sort of guess with them earlier in May and June when we started looking at this. But until we actually get to their audit, it's subject to a little bit of change. But it should reasonably be in this ballpark. That still leaves us with very, very healthy fund balance reserves to be able to weather changes that we may want to make as a district with respect to services that we think a district needs, students need, buildings need. Also leave us enough cushion to be able to pay bills, which is going to be critical. We are a very labor-intensive district, so when we have, like we will in October, a 3-pay month, we could run cash flow out of the district equal to $15-16 million. And so we need to have enough cash on hand at any given time to be able to do that over several months if we have to. So you'll see there under that, the yellow box towards the bottom there on the operating accounts, those are sort of, if you're a financial person, those are sort of the financial cheat sheet numbers. Fund balance to expenditure ratio is still sitting at about 65%. Days cash on hand, which is something I actually take a look at pretty regularly, is sitting at about 238 days. That's a good space for us to be in. We could absorb a few more expenditures if we had to. And then fund balance to revenue. My average expenditure per day number is climbing, and so that is something as we get through the federal spending. So some of this becomes a little noisy because of the federal dollars that we're receiving and what that's doing to the budget. But as a board and from a financial standpoint, we're going to want to watch that as we go into the future, because that really is going to be, that is for us a benchmark that we want to monitor, because what it's telling me is I'm spending way more than I thought I was spending. And I can monitor that quickly, so it helps me gauge during the course of the school year how we're doing. So again, next steps for the board. We've had several meetings on this going back to July. So we're at the point of having the public hearing tonight. We do the adoption tonight. We'll submit the budget up to ISB. Again, our budget always gets amended as we go through the year, so this is not the last time we will be talking about it this year. And then on September 30, we need to roll the evidence-based funding narrative back up to the state board so that they can see it. So that'll be a narrative on how we are spending the $15 million that the state is providing. The board also has a number of other documents. One of them is the expenditure by object historical analysis. This does provide the board with some additional material from a historical standpoint on how each of the funds and each of the objects has been spending. So it gives you a little more detail to be able to dig in if you really wanted to see any kind of additional trends or any sort of outliers. I did add on the bottom, just to help the board, changes from prior year by object so that you could see it. So you can see, for example, on salaries, we're about 8%, 8.29% higher this year going into 22 than we were in 21, about 7.4 million in additional new salary costs. So you can sort of see that as you go across. So that gives you some perspective with respect to the thinking about it from an object standpoint. And then the board has in front of it the actual state form of the budget. This is a trickier document to read. It's got about 30 some odd pages to it. Basically, it will regurgitate in a slightly different format all of the information we just talked about. But it does help you look a little more specifically at some of the sub-items. So if you were interested, for example, in how much we spend on technology as a very specific line item, you can see everything in the technology space that gets attributed into technology. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's the technology department, right? It's just these are coded in because this was an expenditure that happened to be a computer that happened to be something. And so you can sort of see how that lays out then with each of those expenditures. Questions? It's a lot of data, sorry.
Mr. Brown?
So with the increase in the 7% that you mentioned, increase for staff, how does that relate to the number of positions that we actually have open?
Do you-
Like I see that we're taking an increase in new staff, but does it balance out because we have so many positions that we still need to fill?
So when Linda's preparing this, she's looking at our open positions as well, right? So you have, so we're looking at positions that are actually filled, positions that are potentially going to be filled, and then overtime and all of the other costs, right, associated with subs and all that stuff. So it's the whole picture should be captured here.
Thank you.
Dr. Baker?
You said that you presented it to the finance committee. What did they have any specific feedback or concerns?
Finance Committee didn't have any specific concerns about the budget. I think there was a lot more interest in digging deeper into site-based expenditure reporting, which is coming out of the evidence-based funding models. And so Finance Committee will start picking up more conversations around the very specific, like why a particular school is here and another school is here based on their demographic components with respect to the students that are there. It's hard to do in a district that uses the choice modeling the way we've got it. It's very hard to create like really strong comparative connection because the student population can change depending upon students that are coming into the district. We've seen a lot of growth, so that throws demographic profiling a little bit different, right? So it's not a great apples to apples year over year type of comparison, but it does give us some really good data to say, okay, wait, we would expect to see this particular site spending this kind of money for these students, but they didn't. So what happened? COVID's going to make some of that data a little bit tricky too, because direct instruction always looks different from an expenditure standpoint than remote instruction, and so we'll have a little bit of that. It'll give us a good opportunity, though, to start getting into why, and that's really what I think the Finance Committee is really trying to get to.
Any other questions? And Linda, this is unrelated. It's a question you can't answer this evening, but I am curious that if we're in our line item in our budgets for IDEA funding, which comes from the federal, comes through Congress, if that were fully funded at 40% versus 13, and I know there's funds A, B, C, D, but down the line, maybe telling us if that were truly fully funded by Congress, what would our budget look like?
Yes, I think we're at a point where we can start to get a little more specific with respect to the groupings within IDEA funding to see where we're short and what the federal government would make up had they fully funded.
Yeah.
So again,
Just
we s-
informational?
Yep, yep.
Just to take it back?
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions, Heather?
I'm sorry, Linda, the 238 days cash on hand, is that academic days or is that calendar days?
calendar days.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And once again, you're fabulous the way you present this to us. I know you've done it repeatedly, but it does make it helpful. There is opportunity for public comment and input on this particular budget piece. If anyone has a comment or feedback on the budget, you are welcome to do so now. Okay, seeing none, no board questions. This is an actionable item, but I will close the public hearing first. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Shannon Soteropoulos. Tammy, would you call roll?
Ms. Shannon?
Yes.
Ms. Soteropoulos?
Yes.
Ms. Armstrong?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Poppel? And Ms. Vasquez?
Yes.
Motion carries 6 with 1 abstention. Tammy, that will move us into an action item. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Soteropoulos Shannon. Any other questions or comments on adoption of the budget? Tammy, would you call roll?
Ms. Soteropoulos?
Yes.
Ms. Shannon?
Yes.
Ms. Armstrong?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cluckle?
Yes.
Ms. Vasquez?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you again very much, Ms. Matkowski and team, for that presentation. And that will move us to agenda item 8, still agenda item 7, which is our action agenda. Item B is Restorative Practices Implementation Plan. Do you want to start? Sure. Okay, I'll turn that over to Dr. Boozer and Mr. Orlando Thomas.
This next piece here is really a presentation and hopefully an approval to begin our work with restorative practices in our district. As you take a look at everything that's been happening in our system across the community and that's seeping into our schools, there is a deep need for restorative practices. And so I'm excited about this work. As a matter of fact, my dissertation was all around how restorative practices and its impact on racial inequities in pre-K-12 schools. So when I heard about this, when I start transitioning here in April, I was excited. So we've been working with our friends from iBarge and coming up with a comprehensive plan that will involve voices from our staff, our students, our community, our administrators, our board. So I'm really excited because it's really seated and seeped in equity. So for no further ado, and the questions that I gave you earlier came from our board, so believe me, they don't just say yes. I have to prove all this stuff. And I'm excited about it because this is something I really believe in. We need to be restored. We talk about reparation, but not about restoration. And so we need this piece here. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Orlando Thomas, who has been the conduit for this whole work. So Mr. Thomas, thank you.
Yep, you bet. Thank you, Dr. Boozer, and good evening to the board. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an overview of the 5-year comprehensive plan presented by Illinois Balance and Restorative Justice Project. Tonight, we are excited and to welcome Sarah Schreiber and Joe Oma Osagi that will provide the overview, and then we'll open it up for questions at the end.
Well, it is a pleasure to be here. Does this work?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's a real pleasure to be here at this point with you all together. We've been talking about this and this plan and Unit 4 and the community for a good long time.
Yeah.
So this is an important evening, and we've got a very short time. So we're just going to dig right in, and we hope to have some time at the end for your questions.
So let's do it.
Let's
Are you
do it.
ready? Yes. So iBarge. What iBarge is a balanced restorative justice dedicated to supporting the efforts of individuals and communities to shift hearts, minds away from punitive ways of handling disagreements, conflict, and harm towards a more equitable, just, and respectful world where people thrive. I sit across from Mr. Brown.
I just want to make sure the audience in the
Yeah.
TV can hear. There you go.
I sit across from Mr. Brown, and I remember Mr. Brown as a high school student. And we sat and hey, I'm not that old. Come on. We were high school students together then, maybe. And we sat in lots of circles at Brother to Brother, and we traveled to Chicago, and we did when you talk about restorative justice, when I think about restorative justice, I think about you. I think about what we tried to do. It wasn't called restorative justice at that point, but we sat in that room with Mr. Higgins and several of your peers. And I think by the reason that you are here today is probably part of that. And that's what we hope to see, that these young folks here are going to be doing the same, taking over your jobs. And that's a good thing. That's a hope. I mean, this is the only statewide RJ and restorative justice organization in Illinois. the unique combination of, I've been in this community about 40 plus years, and I came here to go to school, and I stayed. And I started out wanting to study international relations, and I ended up really realizing that community relations matter more. And that's why I have stayed in the community, and I continue to stay in the community, because I want to see folks like this. He was in high school when I knew him, and he's here today, helping make decisions about what we will do with this community. It's not just a school-based endeavor, it's about all of us within the community. We have decades of experience. I've been doing this since a long time. And we have experience in this stuff. We've been leading this transformative process for quite a while. And this transformative process is not just a school-based process, because if it were just school-based, schools are in communities, and the community is where sometimes the conflicts come from the community into the school, because guess what? The school is a safe zone. And because it's a safe zone, sometimes those communities that are percolating in the community are brought to them. So we want to hopefully not only let the community, the school community know about this, but the larger community in which we all live. This is my community. This is our community. And the hope is that this restorative practice that we start within the Champaign schools becomes a restorative practice for the community itself. Next one.
Could I add one quick thing?
Please go ahead.
Okay, so we're pretty informal, so we're just gonna kind of bounce off each other. Dr. Boozer, when you were reflecting back to the board, their questions to you, I heard something really important, which is that we really want to earn the trust and the partnership of Black and Brown students, families, community members, and so on. And I'm excited about this, and I want to be very clear that iBarge is not just a board. We're not just 5 people who are going to come in and do all of this work. I think you've seen the proposal. That would be impossible. We could never promise to do that. What we do is we call on the expertise that is in this community, starting with Joe, but far beyond Joe. There are a lot of folks. We have some people in the audience who are both iBarge board members, but also community partners. Can you raise your hand? Yeah. And hopefully the rest of you at some point. We are very serious at iBarge about diversifying our own board, the people that we work with, the people that we bring on into leadership. This has actually been an ongoing discussion for a year. But we really come to the community to talk to people and to lift up the expertise that already exists. And so we are very aware that the messenger is incredibly important. And so we want to bring a diversity of us to the diversity of the community. So I just wanted to put that there.
Thank you.
Ta-da, okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thanks for letting us know.
Yeah.
So what is restorative justice education and practice? Accountability, understanding harm, and engaging in repair. Because I think a lot of times we want to have a quick fix, but accountability is long-term. It's about getting everyone to participate in the solution. A long time ago, I don't know how many of you have been in the community, John Pyland was the state's attorney here. And he wanted to start a restorative, just called a Victim Offender Reconciliation Program. And this is about 30 years ago now. I was one of the mediators for that. And it's something that I have always believed in. And it's about teaching accountability. It's about understanding how, not what I do to her, but how I repair my relationship with her. And that's what we hope to see. It's a whole community-wide process, and it's about shifting the culture a little bit. Because I think a lot of times we're very used to that idea of punishment. The whole thing about a penitentiary and the penance, the ceilings were high so that you could pray. Yes, that works for some folks, but if you never get a chance to deal with the issue at hand, which is, I hurt someone, and this is how it impacted her, then I come back to the community, and nothing has been solved. And so this is one way in which we're going to start working towards that goal. We're guided by a set of values. This is proactive, and it's not just, and it's responsive and transforming the conflict. It acts as a framework in which lots of things will exist. The process and programs can be connected to what the school district wants.
Yeah, just quickly to add, RJ and RJE education practices is a beautiful organizing framework in which we can connect all of the things that you spoke about earlier, equity, inclusion, trauma-integrated approaches and services, SEL, all of these things must come together and work together, and RJ is just a great framework in which to do that, and we're really excited to do that. I always say, and I say it more than once, that this is not a program. It is a process, and that is a very, very different thing.
And a practice.
And a practice, and an approach,
Yes.
and a philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of P's.
All of these, yes. It's also important to know what it isn't, right? There are lots of myths.
Yeah, lots of myths about what it. So we're here to do some myth busting. We're not blowing anything up. So,
Definitely not.
as I said, not a program, but a philosophy. It's not punitive, an exclusionary or an exclusionary disciplinary approach. Not an approach that fails to hold people accountable. And I think that's the biggest, to me, the most important aspect of it. Accountability. Accountability. I am a counselor. That's what I've done for the last, I don't know how many years. So it's not a therapeutic approach or treatment, but we address the community, and it's not a quick fix. It's not something that, say, we're going to do RJ today and tomorrow we're all good. No. And that's why I'm glad that the Champaign School District is looking at a 5-year, because it's a process. And we're changing minds, and we're changing an approach to doing things that work for all of us, all our kids. I no longer have a kid in the Champaign schools, but it's still all our kids. Yes, I can say Bruce is one of my kids.
I think you see in the proposal that we outline activities for a number of years. There is good science behind the fact that for culture shift, people need to be committed in doing the work together for a number of years. This is not a quick fix, because it's about building relationships, and building relationships, especially when there's healing to be done, takes a lot of time. It cannot be rushed, but it can be done. And so if we have the time that we need all together, then we feel very confident that we can do this. Okay, we understand that you all have a pretty fantastic strategic plan, a lot of objectives and goals and core values. Restorative justice in general, and I think that the process that we've laid out really aligns well with your strategic plan, and I don't want to go too much into it, but we did want to mention it. Our work will be completely tailored to the strengths and the challenges of Unit 4, but each school building specifically, to the community in which each school sits, right? I mean, that very neighborhood, but also the larger community of Champaign, and all of what is going on in Champaign as well. So I think, it's responsive, its lens is equity, and all of those things that were discussed earlier. And so I believe that it aligns very well.
Yeah, and I mean, we live in this community and we see there's a lot of disparity and we see inequity. And we want to address those things in a way that gives everybody a voice in the solution as opposed to dictating what we think a solution is.
Correct. So we come to you with our commitments. We have, we are committed to this. We've been committed to fleshing this out for a number of months. We will collaborate authentically and meaningfully, and we will take the time to do so with all of Unit 4's stakeholders. I always start with students and young people, so all of you and all of your peers, all of your families, and all of the families who are not at board meetings, all of the teachers who are in classrooms every day on, I hate saying front line because that's a war metaphor, but who are in it, right? All of the school support staff, all of the bus drivers, all of the lunchroom folks, right? We will collaborate with all of those people, all of the people in the community, right? The people who do not trust the school district, the people who love the school district, and everyone in between. We will only be able to do our job if we collaborate with all of those people, and we support the opportunity for all of those people to collaborate together. That is a tall order. There are, as I think, 21 schools and 10,000 students, and then everyone else. So it's a tall order, and we're excited about that. Getting everyone involved is the way that it works. So turning to capacity, this just kind of continues what I'm saying. Capacity is multifaceted. How can one organization come in that doesn't have a program and is going to do more than trainings, right? To really get this work done. And I think that what I want to highlight for you is that the proposal that we've put forth builds in the opportunities to build internal capacity. You don't want us here forever. You might want Joe here forever. I might want to end up here forever. I don't live here now. But ultimately, when we do our job well, we leave, right? And the only way to do that is to make ourselves unnecessary. And so the proposal that we have put forth and the work that we will do is very intentional about slowly and meaningfully building internal capacity. So that's starting, and we've done it before. So I'm happy to say that I've seen it happen, I've seen it work, and I'm excited to try it again in this space. We work with teams that already exist, right? So that we're not coming in and saying, now you need a new committee and a new team and a new this and a new that. We work with those building leadership teams that already exist, that are already doing this work. And we support them and build their capacity with an RJ framework. We will work with students, and there are already student teams and passionate students who are already working together on these issues. And we will work with them, we can train them, and they will lead. Same thing with parents. We have a cohort model, which means that schools will have peer schools. We're not going to work with 21 schools in 1 year. That would be a waste of your money. But we will have cohorts, and what we've seen before from this cohort model is that it is one of the most powerful ways for cultures to shift, because schools are leaning on each other and they're learning from each other and they're seeing each other in completely different lights, often more positive than maybe they thought previously. And then they go, they've learned and they're developing this leadership around RJ. And they turn around the next year and they teach a new cohort of schools. So slowly we're sort of like scooting backwards. I hear you.
Yeah. And part of what this does, instead of creating a hierarchy, it flattens this and gives people a place to belong, and you mentioned belonging several times. I used to work at Cunningham. One of the things that we took from our trips to South Dakota was a Native American saying, "Mitakuye Oyasi," all my relations. Belonging is the first element of anything that happens. If your kids don't belong, if your staff don't belong, change will not occur. We look at Erickson's developmental stages. Belonging is the first stage that a child does, but if a child never learns to belong within that family structure, then there are things that happen as time moves on. So the young people have to feel they belong. The faculty and staff have to feel they belong. And going back to the cohort model, you see what's happening in, let's say, Jefferson, and Edison says, I want to be a part of that. And that's part of it. We flatten this approach to how we deal with each district.
I could go on and on. Anyway, lots to say. Evaluation, right? Dr. Boozer, we heard you loud and clear. Love evaluation. Love what it can do for leveraging more and more of this work. I briefly just want to say that we would do a similar evaluation here to one that we've done previously that I've worked on. We've got partners who have worked on others. But it's multi-method. It is both looking at quantitative data. We want to look at disciplinary consequences and those types of things, attendance. Those are the things that are very typically looked at over time. And we want to look at those because we believe those will shift. But what's even more interesting or interesting to sort of bring the stories to those numbers, right, is all of this great qualitative data collection that we can do. And that is allowing people to tell their own stories. And so a big part of our evaluation will also be qualitative. And we talk to everyone, right? It's just like the collaboration that we do. We need to speak to students. We need to speak to students who really love being in school and go to school every day, and also students who no longer go to school for a variety of reasons, and all of the families and the community's perceptions of schools. So it is a big evaluation, but it is rich, very, very rich. Importantly, I want to say that it is independent. It is not us doing the evaluation, although we'll certainly liaise with those folks. We have started to talk with a few people who we think could be good candidates. I've worked with people at UIC. I know folks here at U of I have done evaluation. And we will work with those people, but I think importantly with the school district and all of the stakeholders to determine which metrics we really want to look at, right? We want to look at culture and climate and how that changes year to year. We want to look at bullying. We want to look at aggression. We want to look at social emotional factors, right? All of these will be a part of that evaluation. And I think just a few things that I want to pull out from an evaluation that I was a part of before. The things that rose to the surface as being the most powerful shifters of culture toward a positive, in the positive direction, was authentic and meaningful student engagement, right? Putting students in leadership positions, putting students at the table and asking them what their data mean, right? What do these numbers mean to you, right? Using data to create a shared language. Some really interesting things came to the surface that you might not expect. And we pay attention to those, and then we bring them to the work that we can do here.
So I'll ask this committed leadership, Dr. Boozer and the board, committed to this endeavor and to the longevity of this endeavor. Stay with the process. It's going to get messy. It's not going to be a quick fix. we're not going to be saying, oh, wow, they fixed it right away, because we did not get here overnight. The 18 months of a pandemic that we're still in has ruptured a lot of things. And so we're still dealing with a lot of messy things, and it's really messy right now. And guess what? It probably could get messier, but I hope it's not. But we start changing the culture and the language that we use to address children and address adults. That's what we're asking. An authentic engagement. What does it mean to be authentically engaged in this process? What is your commitment to see if things get messy? Are you still committed to making sure that we stay in the process? Are you open? Are you ready? Let's get to it. Questions?
Wow. Before we start, this is an action item. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Shannon Brown. Questions? Mr. Brown?
So my question, well, one of my questions is, in one of the documents you sent us, it talked about community buy-in. And so my question to you is, how do we secure the community's embrace? Because to some, this sounds like direct contrast or conflict to the immediate safety needs that our district has, mainly because of who needs these services most. So again, how do we secure that community buy-in with those contrasts and dynamics?
So we all need it. It's, I mean, it's not going to be just these people over here or those people over there. We all need it. Southwest Champaign needs it just as much as Garden Hills. And I think that what we always seem to have a thinking about is that's us and them. It's not us and them. I'll go into my language here. Arone, we're in it. That's Edo. We're in it. And we're in it together. In order for this, it is not something that we're doing to you. It is something we're participating in. And I think part of what has happened over the years is that we've seen it as something that's been done to the district, as opposed to being something that you're participating with the district about.
And I'll quickly introduce Mikhail. Mikhail Lubansky is iBarge board and is going to just jumped in to help us answer questions. So I didn't know if you wanted to say anything there.
Not yet.
Now this is like directly in front of my face. Yeah, I could talk about this
Yeah.
for 12 hours.
And we're building capacity. I mean, one of the things that Mikhail and I have been doing, although we've not had a chance to even speak to the board, we've been interviewing and talking to different community collaborators of different stripes. And I think that's part of how we'll do it. We'll probably come to your church and talk to you, and we'll go to lots of different places, because it is not just about the schools. It is about our community. Yes, the schools are where we see the problems, but it is a community issue. It's not just we got to stop saying us and them. I mean, I'm a board chair for the mental health board. I say it's a health. I want to call it just a health board, because saying it's mental health separates it from health. Saying it's a school issue separates it from the community. It doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in our community.
Yeah, just to echo that for the last few months, we've been meeting with people in the community, talking to people about who else we should be meeting with in the community. And my understanding is that there is not only a community need for healing, but there's also a community desire and energy around making that happen. So my understanding is that's happening starting in October, I believe. And I think that while we may not be the ones leading it and shouldn't be, we are attuned to what's going on and are communicating with people so that we can just make our team that much bigger and find out. I think that if we can support there to be, neutral is a loaded word, but neutral spaces where people can come, not be judged, share their stories, share their voices, and be heard, that's the beginning of potentially healing. And we want to leverage that. We want to start that right away in the community, to be doing that not in isolation, that and this and all of these things.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Heather?
Thank you. Because our responsibilities often are to speak in aggregates as a board, I did some quick math. I want to make sure you understand that I fully understand the cost associated. How do you see this collaboratively with some of our existing programs? How do you see yourself working in Congress with where we've started, what pieces we've already started with, and how you can continue to amplify that work? Because this is a big undertaking, as you expressed. There's a financial implication. There's no amount of money I can't think of for healing. I'm on board for that. That being said, we have a responsibility to ask that question. So can you talk about some of the ways you see us working in Congress with existing programs at Unifor?
Good evening. I don't know all of the programs. I don't think any of us know all of the programs that are Unit 4. So part of what we're going to need to do is just learn about them. But there are some programs that we do know about. So certainly restorative justice is a really good fit with any of the social and emotional learning that's happening. We are in conversation with Karen Sims in trauma-informed practices, and we see restorative practices complementing those efforts. But the relationship building that Dr. Boozer talked about and that several other people here have alluded to is one of the core values and one of the core principles of restorative justice, and that's where we intend to start, both with the community and with all the different fabulous things that are happening in the district.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. There is there's a statistic that I think is really eye-opening. And somebody asked teachers, how many programs are in your building? And I think the average was 3. The average answer from a teacher was, well, I think we have 3 programs, when the average was actually 14. And I like that statistic because, and I like it in the context of what we want to do. Because of RJ and our process as a framework, it is our job, it would be our role to find out what is going on in schools. We know there's SEL going on, but we need to know what curricula, if there are any, are being used, who is responsible for delivering those lessons. Is it once a week, or is it integrated into all of the academics? These are the questions that, especially in the first year, we really need to ask so that we can understand. And once we have a sense of the various programs, the various players, and all of that, we can start to connect the dots. And I think one thing that all of those can do together is to create a common language, because we're all essentially talking about the same goal, right? Which is safety and well-being. That is what you had up here, safety and well-being. All of these things contribute, right, to safety and or well-being. And so if we can all get on the same page, even in terms of our language, then we can begin to have conversations that where we understand each other, because we've decided together what terms mean what and how are we going to work together. It also reduces, there's a lot of competition, right, among programs to be the program or to be the sort of flavor of the month or the year. RJ now has become one of those sort of flavors of the year. but we're here to tell you that that's not what it is. That it is not a program that you bring in and then take out or choose something else. So, we haven't really answered your question about money, which is what I heard you say initially. But I do think that there is an economy of scale once we understand all that's going on, how it's working, whether it's working well, it might be working well over here, but not over here, right? And when we really know that we have what we need, there is probably an economy of scale that eventually will look good on the budget.
I just want to add to that because I think it's a fabulous question. And don't feel bad that you don't know all the programs because I don't either. There's a lot, and I don't mean that to be facetious or anything. It's just we have a lot going on, but learning how to put it all together in a framework that it makes sense.
Yes.
So this is, to me, is how we will help organize the framework and do a crosswalk of what we have and how this fits here, how this fits here, because this is an approach that everyone, and I'm so glad you said that, everyone needs a restorative piece, because that we all need some healing. But everyone doesn't need every program that we have in place.
Right.
So how do we do a crosswalk and put it inside this framework to give us the process we need so that we reach every single one of, I'm going to be personal, my students here in Unit 4. I take accountability for every single one of them. So how do we do that so that they all get what they need? So that's, to me, that there's no
Yes.
price tag you can put on that.
Yes. Hallelujah.
Yeah. And I think we have a societal approach to scarcity. We think everything is going to be scarce, so we want to hoard. This is not about hoarding. This is not about holding on to something. It's about let's do this together. Scarcity of resources is what really creates the tensions that we have within the larger system. And if we can move beyond scarcity of resources, we can come to this place and say, all our kids are impacted in a positive way. Our community is a restorative community.
Thank you. Dr. Baker? Dr. Boozer, I think your timing of coming to our district was right on. I think, what'd you say? Oh, well, I think, no, seriously, I mean, when we were interviewing candidates, who knew we'd be here? And the resources that you, especially like our iBarge, we had not heard of it before. I think that it's timely and relevant. I guess my question, though, to you all is, trying to ask it respectfully, right? In that
Go for
you're
it.
of our community, and we're just now hearing about you. And it's 2000, I think you were formed in like 2005. And so, where have you been? Where have you been? You know our people, you know some of our programs. I mean, this all isn't going to be completely new to you, but we've needed healing for a while. Where have you been?
The organization has been around, but there's been some turnover in us, as I know there's been turnover in other places. So the three of us that are sitting in front of you right now, I want to make sure I get it right. I think as recently as 3 years ago, we were not with iBarge. We were doing restorative justice work in our own communities, but we weren't part of iBarge. So I think that's part of the answer.
Yeah, it's interesting. We kind of fancy ourselves to be small but mighty and really leverage the already existing expertise in any school community we go into. And so I think we talked before this about like, well, you know, which districts or which schools have you worked in? Let's be sure we know all of that because it's truly statewide, right? A lot of statewide organizations say they're statewide and then do a lot of work in and around Chicago. We are so authentically statewide. We live in different parts of the state, and we have worked all over the state and in vastly different, you know, tiny school buildings, tiny districts to, you know, this is a big one. And I just think that breadth of experience is something, I wish you knew more, and I would love to tell you, and I look forward to it. We're maybe not the best marketers. We don't spend a lot of money on that, and I think that does us a disservice. But all of that said, I know that iBarge has actually done work in and around Champaign, and has done training. And in fact, I think that part of the reason that we're sitting here tonight is because there are people in Unit 4 who have continued to call on iBarge for services, right?
Yeah, I keep hearing that, almost like I'm in church or something.
I know,
that-
loving, that makes me feel so good. So I think it's a sort of a combination of things. iBarge right now is, I mentioned earlier that for a year we've been soul searching and reflecting and really taking the time to figure out who we want to be in this work, and how we want to be with schools across the state. And it's a very exciting time, and we're going to have sort of a new, like a coming out party soon. We have horizontal leadership. We're looking for to really expand and diversify the leaders in iBarge. But we want to stay small and mighty, because really the work and the spirit and the expertise and the experience of the people who need to be doing the work are the people in the school communities. But your question is totally fair, and we're just terrible marketers. We do have references, though, if you want any.
Because we're doing the work, and part of it is that we've done individual work with different things, and so coming together as a board, I think, is what we're doing now, but individually we've worked around the state in different capacity.
I just want to say hello to Laura Taylor over here. So in 2009, I did some community organizing in Champaign and Urbana, it was both, that really changed my life. And if I get to know you all well, we can have dinner and I'll talk more about that. But it was this phenomenal community organizing with Dr. Taylor and other people. And so I'm happy to be back. It feels familiar.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, so I have a few questions. I'll ask maybe two and see if anybody else wants to go. So I apologize if these questions were answered and I wasn't in here. My first question is, you mentioned that there are iBarge board members here, and I think I heard you say there are 5 board members, and you also do the work? So you don't have a board that like votes on stuff, and then you have other people that maybe respond to or are accountable to the board? Is that right?
Yeah. No, I appreciate the question a lot. There is a board. It's a 501c3, so there has to be a board. I'm not actually on the board of iBarge, and it's a little bit complicated, and I'm not going to bore you. But there is a board that is, the legal mechanism of the organization. There are some of those people who because of a staffing situation, board members who do restorative justice started to do some of the work itself. But we have always, and I think this is the important part, we've always worked with a cadre of trainers across the state who do restorative justice, who are part of the iBarge family. We don't do staffing in the way that you might typically understand a nonprofit to work, but it enables us to have partners in all sorts of different places. So we're really, yes, there's a very traditional legal board mechanism, and then there are folks on the board who do some work. Not all the people on the board would be doing this particular proposal, and there are people who are not on the board who we would be bringing on to do this work. So,
and you
clear
know,
as mud.
No, that that explains some. So the people, so you're going to be pulling in people to do this work, but you know who they are, or you know where you would ask?
Both,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, I have a full-time job, and I will do some of the work, because I'm an immigrant, and immigrants, we just work. Okay, I'm messing with you guys. Okay. It's from Hamilton. Come on, you guys see that? Immigrant? Okay. Yeah, we get a job done. So, but part of it is also that we are looking around our community. I mean, Mikael and I have been interviewing several different people who will be doing part of the legwork, part of the trainings within the schools. Yes, I might do some trainings, Mikael might do some trainings. We're all going to be involved in some capacity, but we cannot do it all ourselves. 21 schools, 10,000 students, over 1,000 staff. That's not going to happen. But what's going to happen is that we have enough people within the system that will be doing a lot of the work with the same ideas.
Elizabeth, and just to help you a little bit, because that's a great question, and I know where you're going with that. Mr. Thomas, myself, and Dr. Harden and Dr. Ward will be part of that, and no one will overshadow the work that we want to see done in our system and the voices that we want at the table. So we'll make sure that those voices are heard and that no one just says, okay, this is who we need. It's going to be a true process and a true partnership with, we've been working with, there's probably like 3 of you in here, 4 in you here, I think, that Orlando and I have been working with and talking to for the past few months. So we can talk more about that later, okay?
I'll just say a couple more words, which is, we know who the trainers are. Some of them are Joe and me, and some of them are our colleagues, as we've alluded to, that we work with in the past. So that's sort of the easy part. The harder part will be to find the folks in each of the schools who share the values, share the philosophy, who are already in many ways doing exactly what we want everybody in the building to be doing on a philosophical level, and make sure that they get, if they want it, right, not just an overview, but the kind of detailed training that will allow them to do the work and support others in doing the work. And so that's the part that, we'll have to find out who they are, and that'll take a little time.
So, and I don't know who answers this question, but who does everybody report to? Like who's kind of like at the top, or who organizes, who does that?
Orlando and Dr. Harden will be my main 2 go-to people, because it situates itself in the SEL work as well. But this is also in Mr. Thomas's wheelhouse, but ultimately nothing's going to get past me. So you all hired me to make sure things go right. So I'll be at the table, but I'm entrusted in empowering my folks to get the work done at the district level and also down through the building leadership and teachers and students. It's a true community effort.
I guess what I'm trying to understand is, if we have people in our schools who are already doing this work, what is this contract going to change?
I don't think we have people in our buildings already doing this work. What I'm finding is we have people who know of this work, but we don't have a true process or a framework. So it's in pockets here and there, but we want this to permeate and become the fabric of Unit 4, and we are nowhere near that. Nowhere.
Can I get an amen back there?
There's no system that supports that work being done there's no system that supports that work being done on a building level or a district level. So part of our role is to design that system in collaboration with Unit 4 leadership.
Yeah, and when I hear leadership, I mean everybody, right? We need leadership as it is here, and we need it certainly at every building level. But we want to put everyone in the position of being involved in a really meaningful way. So I think when I hear you asking your question, I think that one thing that programs do is they come in and they work with a school building, and some people might get it and others might not. And there's a misconception that not everyone needs SEL, not everyone needs RJ, not everyone needs trauma-informed services. I want to disavow all of us of that. We all need all of it. And in an equitable way, right? We don't need exactly the same things, but we all need to work. We all need to have trusting and healthy relationships. We all need to have our experiences known and supported and addressed, right? Even though they're all different. So I think one thing that our proposal does, I know one thing that our proposal does, is we're thinking about systems, right? We're thinking about all of this at a systemic level, and not only at the sort of training implementation level. Training is a critical part of it, and the training needs to be good and done by good trainers. But then what, right? That is one foundational piece. So the now what part is what we're also, we're gonna stick it out with you, and that's to build those systems. And the systems are interconnected, right? So, buildings operate on their own, they're their own cultures and climates, but they operate within the district operates within the community, and so we need to have crossover among all of those. We think of this as an ecology, right? This is an ecological model that we're talking about. And so we're really building a system, and the hope is that if we build a system, we can fade away and it will keep going. You had another question, I think.
Well, to be fair, I asked a few already, so let's let somebody else take it.
Mr. Brown?
This is actually more of a comment than a question, because the other two questions I had, they've already, Dr. Boozer, I was going to direct the question at you, and you already kind of gave the answer. But I do want to say this. I think one of the things that initially gave me pause, just looking at the proposal, is because this is unlike anything that the district has done, but then it's also sounds very similar to promises that have been made in the past and not followed through. And so that is, so please don't take it personally, but that is our concern. I mean, that is a concern. That being said, I don't know how I missed the personnel piece of who was involved, but who you have sitting in front of us right now, I am very much more encouraged, because this is not just, I can say there are some people who give lip service, but the fact that I was directly involved with the work that Mr. Omosagi started back in the mid-'90s, I'll say that. We won't date each other.
Back in, we're not talking dates.
But then not only my experience in that program, but then years later being a colleague of his and seeing the restorative justice is not even part of a job, it is a lived philosophy. I watched him directly, and I've learned so much from him in terms of watching him. Watch him working in some of the most volatile environments together, he and I, and seeing people, seeing children that most could not reach, seeing him be able to de-escalate and put or use those restorative justice practices. I can only speak for myself, and I'm only one vote, but I have the pause that I had earlier. I don't have because of who I see at the helm. And secondly, looking at the time frame, so kind of speaking to that, this is one of those things that it's not like anything else that we've seen, because most people, again, come with a plan, with promises, and they don't follow through. But seeing the approach and it seeming like kind of a slow roll, and with the price tag attached. It's just very unfamiliar territory, very uncomfortable territory. And I'm gonna end it with that. Can you, and I know, again, it's pretty detailed, but I still want to ask this question for those in the audience. Can you speak to the philosophy behind that time frame, especially the first couple of years, and that it seems like on paper it doesn't look like a lot is going to be happening, but can you at least speak to the philosophy of that timeline?
Yeah, I think we could all. Do you want to say something? Okay, no? Well, my first reaction or response is to lean on science. And scientists and researchers who have monitored culture and climate or cultural shift over time, not only what it takes, but how long it takes. And sustainability, right? Because you can have there are great programs. I almost named one and then I bit my tongue, that you can see change in 2 years, right? Positive change. And then they stop. And there's no sustainability, right? That positive trajectory stops and moves backward, right? So there is a bunch of science behind culture, climate, and organizational change and sustainability. And the reason I think that this is, I think it's too short, to be honest with you, what we've proposed. My hope is that it's so incredible that you all, it is longer. And for you all, it should be forever. For us, maybe it's longer than 5. But it takes that long, and we're dealing with relationships. And relationships, if there's never been trust and 2 people don't know each other or 2 groups, you can start building trust in a certain way. If people have been in a relationship and that trust is busted, it's a whole different thing and a whole different timeline. And there's a lot of that in school systems, right? So building relationship simply takes time. It cannot be forced. It can only be supported. And we start that right away. We start that by going into the community and talking with people, and not even talking, listening to people. We start in schools by working with the people who are on leadership teams, the people who are on board, and also the people who may not know, right, or who may not think they're on board. So we are building relationships intensively all across the 5 years, but in years 1 and 2 in particular, we need to get to know all of you. You need to get to know us. You need to learn to trust, develop trust with us, and we need to develop trust with you. And I think part of the reason that programs come and go is because there is not any emphasis on taking the time it takes to build those relationships, or to even understand that they're important, right? So that's sort of my response to the 5 years. If we do our jobs, you will be doing this forever.
I just wanted to add also that the cohort model, because of it being a cohort model, also requires a longer time span. We're just not going to be able to be in all of the schools at the same time. And while that has some frustrations, some envy perhaps, or some resentment, we'll deal with it if it comes. It also presents an opportunity for a specific kind of evaluation in which we can compare schools, comparable schools in which we are actively involved in, with schools that are still waiting for us to be involved in, and hopefully we're starting to see the kinds of changes that we're all hoping to see.
Thank you. Elizabeth, did you have more?
No, I don't think I have any more.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea of the 4 schools in the first year? Have you decided on that quite yet?
If we've decided, then we're not going to tell you.
Okay.
I didn't hear the question, sorry.
I asked if they knew which 4 schools.
The first cohort.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
And then I missed the words culturally responsive in terms of the evaluation. I would like to make sure that's a part of it. You spoke it, but I just didn't see it. And then lastly, in terms of restorative justice, right, we've talked a little bit internally around MTSS. And you're saying that that's not even restorative, correct? Or there are parts of it that are? I've always kind of thought that there were parts that were restorative, but what I'm hearing you say is that it's different. It's not the same. And multi-tiered systems of support. for
Right.
that.
I think it all depends on, MTSS is also a framework and a way to think about levels of service and what everyone needs and what some people need. And so I think that it certainly can be restorative. Depends what's going into each of those levels.
And what is your experience when you work in these cohorts, especially around special education and children with IEPs?
So I think about radically inclusive communities and leadership groups. And so that includes both students who have IEPs and families with children who do, and certainly teachers, and those systems that are involved as well. So I think, it's another sort of piece of something that's within the framework and that's intersecting with other parts of the framework. Did you want to?
Go ahead.
Restorative justice has the ability to adapt on principle to the needs of the participants. So I agree with the radically inclusive philosophy. I have seen, well, I'll say it like this. On principle, we wouldn't exclude anybody from participating if they wanted to participate. So if folks wanted to participate, then the only question becomes, are there any accommodations? What is necessary for them to be able to do so? And it's generally not that, I mean, I don't want to overstate it, but when I've had experience with that, we've always been able to find a way to include them.
A follow-up question. I'm really appreciative of the details. I think one of the places the collective Champaign, we struggle is in the data collection. So I see that that's a big framework in your first year. Can we get, how do you feel, will there be reporting to Orlando or reporting back to us so that we can know how that's going? Because where we often make our first misstep is in those first few, and that would potentially result poorly in outcomes. So I really want to amplify back that we want that to be the best data collection possible, and we want to know how it's going. So that would be something I'd want to seek.
We need to get an evaluation. So we don't want to be doing our own evaluation. I work for the university. I have experience doing evaluation. It doesn't make sense for us to be evaluating ourselves, right? We want to find partners who are removed from what we do, who understand what we do, but can approach it, with a little bit more independence and objectivity. So we need to get that in place. We didn't want to get started on that until we, had your approval, obviously. But once that happens, it's going to be imperative to get a thorough baseline evaluation, right? If we want to see any kind of change, then we need the baseline measures. So that's gonna be one of the first things that needs to happen evaluation-wise.
Also, I wanted to add that part of this beginning stages, the board will be learning this with us. So you'll see how it's supposed to work in that regard. And then also definitely bring in 4 points to help with the creation of an evaluation tool. We also have CREA that we can utilize as well. So we've been talking about what that will look like. Okay?
Yeah, I want to say something about data. And we have not decided any of this, firm at this point, because we have needed to talk with you, and we need to talk with other partners and evaluators. But in my own experience, data, people start out sort of fearful of data, and we use data in the education world as a hammer. And schools get in trouble, and districts get in trouble, and, I don't need to tell you. Data is a wonderful flashlight with which to see what's going on, to better understand stories, to help flesh out anecdotes, to see patterns. But something that we found out in another sort of transformative big project like this was that regularly bringing data back to the people who are giving us the information and sharing it with them and asking them to help us to understand it, and having that process, and then do action planning. What are the data telling us, right? What are the needs? What are the strengths? And then what can we do with this, right? Doing that on a very regular loop with all stakeholders was one of the things that surfaced as the most powerful part of the process. And so my personal feeling about data is that I want to share it as much as we can. The data belong to you, they belong to the people, they belong to anyone who's giving us information, and we should be transparent about that. And in fact, more than transparent, we should be happy to share it and to mull over together what it means. And we, I think I mentioned earlier that we did just that with students, and they schooled us on what it meant, right? Like, this is what it means, and this is what we would do about it, and you need to listen to us. And with parents, and with community, and definitely with the board, and with the district admin. So I'm a big sharer of data. And I want to be in contact with you. I want to partner with you. I want us to be in partnership in a real way. And that includes sharing information.
Elizabeth?
You've been working with UNIT for a little bit, right? For a few months to some extent?
Well, we've been talking a lot.
Talking.
Yeah.
Work per se.
Sure, maybe that was the wrong word, but in communication, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When you think about what your services would bring to our district, what about our strategic plan or our resolution really resonates with you? Like, yes, this is how our service lines up with these two important documents for the district.
Mm-hmm. My first response, and then I want to hear from you all as local folks, but the fact that you have a resolution, period. It as high level as it might be, and as symbolic as resolution language can be, I'm speaking as a lawyer, it is important that you have it and that it exists, and we will lean on it.
That's part of a framework in which we're going to work. I mean, we have a resolution in Champaign, and that's part of what we're looking at as we do this work. It's not something that's been imposed. It's, let's take this information that you've given us, and we'll work from there.
I want to be honest, I haven't read the district strategic plan, but I've lived here for a little while. I know about the consent decree and the after effects of that. I know about the racial disparities that exist here, and of course, here is no different than most of the rest of the country. So I just want to be clear about that. I think one of the places where I know that we're well aligned is a commitment to the equity piece and to addressing those racial disparities in what schools typically call discipline outcomes. So I'll just leave it there.
Anybody else have questions? I have to admit, I had a lot of questions, and I gave them to Dr. Boozer, but these have all been answered really through a very thorough, and the 5 years, because those of us who may not be here are leaving this as a legacy to those who are coming behind us to do this work and support this work. So it's, again, very important that the board be engaged in it, to learn it, so that any inbound new faces have to understand this is important, it is a priority, and the board has to understand that that's how the district is moving. Any other questions, comments? Tammy, would you call roll?
Ms. Shannon?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Armstrong?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Cluckle?
Yes.
Ms. Robles?
Yes.
Ms. Vasquez?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. And we are in gratitude to your presentation, and we look forward to this messy work alongside you.
We'll get you all a copy of our strategic plan.
Thank you.
We have it. You can't, if you're going to be with us, you got to know it.
Yeah.
It.
There's also a needs assessment. There's a needs assessment that went along with it.
Yeah.
Perfect. We'll
Thank
use
you.
it. Thank you so much.
That will move us into item 8, which is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Shannon Vasquez. I will read through this. Item B is the authorization of school maintenance project grant application. C is human resource changes. That might be the shortest consent agenda I've ever read. Any questions, comments?
Yes. Will you please say, see you later to Gordon? We'll miss him.
He told me as we left last Friday, I had no idea. Gordon is leaving. Yeah, he's moving, taking care of his family. So I just happened to see him in the. Yeah, I know. It'll be sad. Tammy, would you call roll?
Ms. Shannon?
Yes.
Ms. Vasquez?
Yes.
Ms. Armstrong?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cluckle?
Yes.
Ms. Robles?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. This will move us into agenda item 9, which is public comment. I do have cards here. If you haven't filled out the card, there are cards back on the counter. You're welcome to fill those out and hand them to Ms. Sideropoulos. You want to go?
All right, and as we get started with public comment, a reminder of what I said last meeting. In order to honor everybody's voice here, we are consistently limiting public comment to each commenter to 3 minutes. So you're welcome to, when your name is called, you get up and you say what you want to say, but you've got 3 minutes to say it. And the microphone, this is new this time, the microphone will turn off at 3 minutes. And I'll let you know when it's been 3 minutes.
Ms. Matkowski is there. She will clean the microphone in between so that you're safe. You are welcome to take your mask off if that is your wish. That is entirely up to you. Take a deep breath. We're all moms and dads in the district, and this is where we like to hear, especially with students. It's awesome that you guys are here. So the clock will be up on the screen, and you'll hear a beep when your time is up. So I have cards in front of me. I'm just going to call them, and if you want to wait a minute and bring them forward, you're more than welcome to, but we'll keep taking cards as long as you're here. Up first, I have Ellison Reddick. Yep, you can move it. And before you start, we won't start your time. If you have comments that go beyond your 3 minutes, we always welcome those to be emailed to the Board of Education.
All right. I'm here today to speak on behalf of Centennial High School for students, teachers, support staff, building administrators, and anyone else that's found home at Centennial. We've been at the forefront of the news cycle and various social media posts for a while now, but how much do you all really know about what's going on within our walls? My name is Ellison Radek, and I'm a senior at Centennial. Behind me stand students, teachers, concerned parents, and anyone else who has something to say about the state of our health and safety right now. I want to start off with a list that a group of students and I have compiled over the past few weeks of ways that we would feel safer at school. We, as students of Centennial High School, are asking from you, the school board and district administration, the following. We need emergency systems already in place, like intercoms and red emergency buttons, to work. These should be tested well before students are anywhere near the building. We need open communication, emergency alerts to be sent to students and teachers when a crisis is happening in our own building. We need adequate COVID guidelines and safety to be taken seriously while still implementing security measures. We need to know what lockdown expectations are and what lockdowns look like. We need students and staff to have a say in the hiring or rehiring of private security companies for our school. And with said security companies, we need clearly defined rules on how they are to interact with the student body. Guards need to be trauma-informed and trained in consent. We need adequate mental health check-ins for students involved in violence, for students who witness violence in their own classrooms, and especially for teachers who are viewing violence. We need peace building within our school and community. Students trained in conflict resolution from the moment they walk in the door. Not only that, but we need accessible and well-known spaces for students to go where they can channel their emotions in healthy, productive ways. Above all of this, we need to feel safe coming to school. We need to feel like our well-being is being put above outside opinions or monetary spending, above private companies hired to tell you what's wrong with our schools, above a system where students are turned into prisoners. Give us a voice, a way to openly express what we're seeing firsthand. Consult with us. If you're not on the inside of Centennial every day, then you don't know the extent of the issues we're facing. Hiring consulting companies to come in for a day and assess every issue they find with our school is not the answer. The Centennial experience cannot be fully grasped in a day or a week, especially by those who aren't seeing the full truth. Instead, we ask you to turn to the students, turn to the teachers, turn to our greater community, turn to those of us who are hurting the most right now. I appreciate the efforts that the district has been putting in place over the last few weeks, but it's not enough. I understand that we as a district cannot fix every problem and that some issues are bigger than all of us, but there are still better ways to keep our community safe. We want transparency. We want to know what is going on within the walls of this building that we are dedicating our lives to. Metal detectors and security guards and consulting groups are not going to do anything if we aren't addressing the very real systemic issues that our community is facing that are making students turn to violence. Not only do we want transparency, we want a say. As students, we are continuously being told how much our voice matters and how important it is for us to give input, but we're not given an easy way to do this. Instead, we're forced to sit back and watch these changes being made by people that don't know what's actually
Thank you, Ms. Raddick. Up, I have next is Sylvia Lerle, L-E-Y-E-R-L-E.
Okay.
She can correct me. I don't want to butcher. Lyerly. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sylvie Lyerly, and I'm a senior at Centennial. First, I want to give everyone a second to take a breath. I know you are tired and you are trying to do everything possible to keep us safe, and there is no perfect solution to all of this. However, in order to feel safe in moments of uncertainty, we need knowledge. We want to be in the know, admin, teachers, parents, and students alike. This leads me to the point I want to address, communication. Wednesday, September 15th, shots were fired in the student parking lot. Many juniors and seniors were returning from open lunch when a soft lockdown was called. No students students were notified. There was no instruction on whether to leave or return to school or stay in the parking lot. Instead, students were left to panic and text each other what was going on, what to do, and where to go. Teachers received a brief email an hour after shots were fired, and the district sent an email informing students and families 20 minutes after the lockdown was lifted. I would like to request a mass text system similar to an Amber Alert to keep students and staff informed in real time. Another important form of communication is the intercom system. During this incident, the intercom was too soft to be heard in most classrooms. The day after, the intercom systems were tested 28 times, a precaution that should have happened before school started. Previously, on September 9th, Centennial was also put on soft lockdown. I was inside at the time for a club, and we could barely understand what the intercom was saying. As a person who is hard of hearing, it is even more important for intercom messages to be loud and clear. The emergency red buttons are another safety measure that was not implemented properly. I was not even made aware these existed until last week when I discovered teachers have been pressing them throughout the year with no response because they're not programmed to the correct room numbers. Lack of communication has also been an issue with metal detectors. While there was talk of using them for football games, no teacher that I asked knew they'd be utilized during school days. In 3 of my classes, it was a student who informed teachers that there were to be random weekly checks. Teachers are often left to answer questions and console students when they are in the same amount of confusion as we are, and it's hard to have confidence in our teachers when we are the ones informing them about security situations. I would also like to address communication during the recent gun and bomb threats. On Thursday the 23rd, I was in my 8th hour when my friend saw the threat about a bomb being set for 3:20 and showed it to her teacher. My teacher had no idea about this threat, whereas some admin told us they already knew and were working on it. Other teachers knew nothing until it was announced on the intercom at 3:20 that all staff and students needed to immediately evacuate the building. Many didn't know why it was being evacuated until they received a vague email hours later. Speedy communication needs to be a priority. You might think withholding information avoids chaos, but it actually does the opposite. Ignorance is what creates chaos. Students are often told that there is stuff going on behind the scenes, but we need full transparency to believe that. It seems as though it is the job of teenagers to relay information. We are the ones telling our parents about threats firsthand. We are the ones telling teachers about the use of metal detectors. We are the ones talking to each other, piecing together random bits of information to try and create a cohesive story. It should be the job of the district to inform our community. Keeping us informed should be your priority, and when we start to trust that is really happening, maybe
Thank you. Next up, Jessa Kimball.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Jessa Kimball, and I'm a senior at Centennial High School. Let me just tell you, I definitely never pictured this was how my senior year was going to go. It's sad that we now have to distinguish which gun threat we are referring to. It's sad that this is all that Centennial freshmen and sophomores know their high school experience to be. It's sad that the decision to come to school is now a matter of life and death. It's disappointing that we live in the year 2021 and we still don't have a better way to communicate with students, teachers, and parents. For example, when the incident occurred on September 15th, I was in the parking lot with my friend on our way back from open lunch. We didn't even know that there were gunshots fired until our friend got out of his car and told us. The lack of information is very disarming when you have students and teachers off campus who have no clue what is happening. Coming back to a crime scene is the simplest way to put it. Not only is the lack of information a problem, but also the way that the situation was handled. We were under a soft lockdown and due to gunshots fired just feet away from Centennial High School, and they were continuing to let people in. The fact that the violence is not just in our community, but right outside the doors of our school, and we still don't have the proper procedures in place when incidents like this happen is not okay. As you already know, we can't plan for how you will react when situations like this arise. But when you have students in a school where the intercoms barely work, where it's unclear if we are in a lockdown, where there is a lack of communication from admin to teachers, students, and parents, then that's a problem. My sister is an 8th grader at Jefferson Middle School who at the time were under a hard lockdown. Her class was told by their teacher not to get on their phones and text their parents because the teacher didn't want it to get out from their classroom. Furthermore, showing that our schools care more about their reputation than our students being able to communicate with parents who had to find their information about their child's safety from Facebook. Now, I know September 15th wasn't that long ago, but it feels irrelevant at this point, because on September 22nd, when walking into school felt like going through airport security, our students missed all of their first hour. Again, you see a lack of communication. Teachers were not aware until students informed them of metal detectors being used randomly throughout the school week. That is not okay. Now we are 5 days later, and we still haven't received an email about the bomb threat. The lack of communication from the school board and admin to teachers, parents, and students is disarming because we deserve to know what's going on. Parents deserve to know that their children are safe. Students deserve to feel safe when they go to school. We live in a campus town where the university has an Illini alert system that anyone can sign up to get notifications about emergencies that occur on campus. Why not use those resources to put something like that into place for middle and high schools to ensure that all students, parents, and teachers are notified when incidents like this occur again in our community and at our schools? Not only are we demanding for an emergency call and text system, but we are asking that all students, staff, and parents get more informed. We don't just want to know that there's been an incident at Centennial. We don't just want to know that shots were fired. We want to know that our children are safe. We want to know that the procedures are being followed. We want to know that what the incident was. We want clear and well-informed updates. Thank you.
Jake Cox.
Hi, my name is Jake Cox, and I'm a senior at Centennial. I want to speak for the students who think a normal day of school may be their last, for Centennial administrators putting the well-being of their students above their own lives, for students tripping in the parking lot while running and trying to find anywhere to hide, for teachers whose intercom systems didn't work, and for those of us who didn't know the lockdown procedures, for parents terrified that every morning may be the last time they see their children, for anyone who else has been harmed at the hands of the district's broken systems. On September 15th at 1:47 p.m., a soft lockdown was called, if you could hear it. Many of the intercom speakers at Centennial are unintelligible, including those outside and in the gym. When there's a threat to our safety, we deserve the right to clear and concise information. Without functioning intercoms, that's not possible. And it honestly is ridiculous that after spending billions of dollars on our new beautiful school, we still don't have them. Another way the district can follow through on this request is by instituting an emergency text system. In addition to students just in rooms without intercoms at work, deaf or hard of hearing students can also benefit from announcements being transmitted in writing as well as rather than just verbally. Another key thing we're asking for is the clarification of lockdown expectations, so it's crystal clear what's expected of both students and teachers. On that day, many teachers weren't sure what the procedure was to follow when the lockdown was called. Some, fearing for the worst, locked their doors and turned off the lights, while others continued class like usual. The school must allow for the free exchange of information and total transparency. I like to call on the district to release the emergency operations protocol to the public, even if it must be in an amended form. For all intents and purposes, this is our workplace as much as it is for staff, and we deserve the same access to information regarding our safety and crisis response. The lack of information only breeds speculation, fear, and violence, none of which we need more of in our community's current crisis. As Centennial's mission statement puts it, as charters, we create a safe community of trust, respect, collaboration, and solidarity. In the school's current state, that isn't possible. Without relinquishing the power structures that put students and teachers in odds in crisis, we can't heal or feel safe in our schools. Creating a culture of transparency and equality will make students feel safe and comfortable at school, and put parents at ease in seeing their kids to get their education. In the school's current state, no one feels safe. In summation, we demand clarified lockdown expectations, more frequent drills, access to the district's emergency operations protocol, transparent communication, and a seat at the table where decisions are being made that very well could decide whether we make it a graduation day, because not because we want it, because we demand and deserve it. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Kobe Clark.
Good evening. My name is Kobe, and I'm a current sophomore at Centennial High School. I recently transferred districts just last year for better opportunities, and while that has been the case, violence has been another side of the story. Ever since the first day of school, I've seen with my own eyes fights been thrown left and right. An average around 3 to 5 fights a day that leads to 15 to 25 fights a week. More or less, a couple weeks later, weaponry objects have been creeping into the school's premises. These include, but are not limited to, pepper spray, knives, and guns. I would like to make it crystal clear that on September 15th, around 1:15 p.m., gunshots were fired in our school's parking lot. Even with this tragedy happening, our teachers and our school's announcers over the intercom were both not prevalent when it came to taking immediate action. It was not until 30 minutes later that the school dean announced that we were on a soft lockdown, not even a hard lockdown. Fast forwarding, me and other students at Centennial received threats on social media underlining a bomb and gun threat. Knowing that Centennial has failed to take proper action to make students feel safe, many of us skipped school on Thursday and Friday last week. I ask you, Board of Directors and School Administration, administrators to have a second look in determining what housing districts attend which schools. According to statistics, a lot of our students come from low-income socioeconomic backgrounds. With this being a majority at our school and a minority at Central High School, you begin to notice we don't hear as much violence from Central High School. So again, I ask you to take a second look in determining what housing districts and/or addresses take part in determining what school students should be attending. I feel as though if we separate a lot of the students who cause these acts by moving to Central and leaving some at Centennial, that this will be the only way to stop the violence. As I do appreciate the metal detectors, that is a step in the right direction. Ultimately, that is not the case nor a solution to fix the violence at our school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Emily Hancock.
What is a teacher supposed to do when a student is freaking out while a possible safety threat is happening at school? How will their teachers receive well-detailed information on events that have been or might happen during the school day? My name is Emily Hancock, and I am a junior at Centennial High School. On Thursday the 23rd, during my 8th hour around 3:10 p.m., I found out that there was a social media bomb threat towards Centennial at the time. A friend of mine was in the classroom right next to mine, and she was very freaked out over the whole situation. Since my teacher knew about the threat, I walked up to her and asked if I could step in the hall to help calm my friend down. She said yes, and even invited the both of us to sit into her closet. We sat there until our principal started speaking over the intercom. He said, "When the bell rings, all students will exit using the main entrance, and then after all the students are out of the building, the teachers may begin to leave." My friend and I walked out of the closet into an empty classroom. We both thanked her for letting us have a safe space during a scary ending of the day. This is the way that a teacher should help their students during a crisis, by creating a classroom that their students feel safe in. Unfortunately, my teacher was only able to create the safe space because a few other students and I had informed her of the bomb threat that had just been posted on social media. Around the time that my table had told her, the school had already known for 30 minutes, yet she was given no information regarding the situation. How can you expect teachers to protect their students and help them feel safe if they are given the bare minimum amount of information or not any at all? It is not possible. There needs to be a way for teachers and admins to communicate effectively with each other. This effective and quick communication will create a new layer of safety by keeping the teachers informed of how they can help their students. By having constant and quick communication and guidelines in place that teachers and other staff can follow, will create a safe and well-informed environment around the whole school. Information is not only power in situations such as threats to our schools, but also safety. We can start the process of keeping our students and teachers safe by giving teachers and staff as much information as possible. Because when people know what is happening, they're more likely to know how to handle dangerous situations. What are you not allowing teachers to say to their students after we are searched and wanded down before entering school for the day? Are they not allowed to agree with the fact that it is a traumatic experience? Are they not allowed to express their opinions on the matter? Having teachers say everything that is happening is an abundance of caution and for your overall safety is not a response. Allow teachers to have an open conversation with their students. Let them express their own thoughts and feelings. Have you asked the teachers of Centennial High School what they think and want? Maybe it's time you let them speak, and you just listen.
Thank you, Ms. Hancock. Up next is Seth Hubbard.
Hi. Okay. On September 15th at around 1 p.m., I was given the information at the school that there was shots outside of the parking lot. And my first instinct with my group of friends was to shut down the room that we were in. It shouldn't be our priority to keep other people safe when we aren't informed and trained on the situations that are given to us at any given time. My teacher was not present at that time, nor was any other person I'd assumed to be someone to protect us. It was our decision. And I think that this should be something that's looked into in the future for other calamities that happen at any given time at this school. I think that with things like conflict resolution planning and preparations for any sort of attack on this school will be extremely helpful, not only for ourselves as students, but as everyone else in the area, given if we get into this situation and someone feels that they are prepared enough to help out others, this is just another life saved at our school. I think that also with conflict resolution. This is not only helping us in this situation, but helping us prevent things like this from happening in the first place. If someone is able to recognize this as a problem before any sort of physical altercation can happen, this saves so many people in the future. This is something that this is something that's a necessity to people to be able to feel safe in this type of environment, to be able to go to school every single day and feel that they know what to do when something like this happens. I feel that with any sort of preparation for us and equal communication with our staffs and teachers, these things won't happen. These things won't be a problem, and this situation won't have to be blown into this much of a proportion. I believe that with starting this at a younger age, it will cause for everyone in the future, everybody behind me, all the younger youth that will come to these meetings, they will become leaders in these type of situations, be able to save people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen Hines?
Good morning. My name is Jen Hines. I'm not here to give a public comment, but I will in the future. I'm here for the students, and I'd like to give them public praise. I've told many of you since you were freshmen that you've been practicing the democratic practices that we need as a nation, that you are stepping into your power, and that it is my goal to make you feel that power and to make you feel what you can do when you carry this into future spaces. We need your power. We need your audacity for better. We need your heart in this fight. And I think about how Empower often works with students who have lost their agency due to sexual harassment or assault, but here you are walking in your fullest agency. So it's with deep gratitude that I'm here to lay witness to your power. And now in true English teacher form, if I can leave you with this Audre Lorde poem, because Lorde knows she has more wisdom than I do. A litany for survival. For those of us who live at the shoreline, standing upon the constant edges of decision, crucial and alone. For those of us who cannot indulge the passing dreams of choice, who love in doorways coming and going in the hours between dawns, looking inward and outward at once before and after, seeking a now that can breed futures like bread in our children's mouths, so their dreams will not reflect the death of ours. For those of us who are imprinted with fear like a faint line in the center of our foreheads, learning to be afraid with our mother's milk, for by this weapon, this illusion of some safety to be found, the heavy-footed hoped to silence us. For all of us, this instant and this triumph, we were never meant to survive. And when the sun rises, we are afraid it might not remain. And when the sun sets, we are afraid it might not rise in the morning. And when our stomachs are full, we are afraid of indigestion. And when our stomachs are empty, we are afraid we may never eat again. And when we are loved, we are afraid love will vanish. And when we are alone, we are afraid love will never return. And when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak, remembering that we were never meant to survive. Keep loving, keep fighting.
Thank you. Up next, Paige Dixon.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how to follow that. The beloved community is the framework for the future. This is principle 2 of the 6 pieces outlined by Dr. Martin Luther King as the principles of nonviolence. The beloved community is the framework for the future. In light of the extreme violence in my community and my school, Centennial High School, I ask all of you to consider how you can immortalize this principle. I ask you all to think yourself beloved. I ask you all to think this community beloved. I ask you all to think the person who was shooting 13 rounds 90 feet away from me at my school beloved. I am extremely thankful for my administration and their dedication to keep us safe. You are beloved. But in turning my beautiful, brave school into a glorified prison, you are not only intensifying the internal violence of children who have been treated as criminals their entire life, you also are not solving much. While I agree with the heightened awareness towards weapons being brought into my school, I resist the idea of attacking persons of evil rather than forces of evil. While this is often dismissed as an exaggeration, a hypersensitive coddling of our youth, it is becoming increasingly apparent that the most dangerous weapon being carried into my school cannot be stopped by increased security, metal detectors, and asking black kids to take down their hood. It is the violence that we are facilitating and reacting this way. I do not feel safer when I am being patted down, touched by someone I don't know, and met with screaming children, upset because they are being prosecuted by the people who are supposed to fight for them. We are leaders, we are learners, and we are not suspects. If we begin to create a more beloved community through spiritual and physical nonviolence and put our money and time towards lasting institutions like school-wide Kingian nonviolence training, which I myself am trained in, and other programs such as the iBarge program that are designed to create peace and positive relationships, I can stop texting my brothers every time we go on lockdown because I'm afraid that they're dead. In 2019, I walked into my school with pride, and today I walked into my school and I cried. I demand that the school listens to us over trying to please anyone else. I demand that the metal detectors and private police officers that, by the way, are rude, violent, and that I watched not move a muscle while we were under lockdown for the second time. They must go, and we must heal. Thank you.
Thank you. Elenia Kimball.
My name is Elena Kimball, and I am in 8th grade at Jefferson Middle School and a future Centennial Charger. I'm here today to talk about the recent violence at my school and in our community. 2 weeks ago, I was in lockdown in math class. This past week, I had to decide if I wanted to go to school or not because of a bomb threat. As if COVID wasn't enough, these are the things students are forced to think about when coming to school. I'd like to address the issue of fights at the middle school and high school. Fights between students haven't been as frequent, but they aren't going away. The district's solution to the fights is to bring in resource officers. From what I have seen, most of the times the officers just yell at students and stand in the hallways. One officer made an interaction with me and my friend, but they don't always do that. Most students I have talked to do not enjoy having officers in our school. I don't believe it makes students feel safer. It doesn't make me feel safer to have officers in my school when I know it's the teachers and the hall monitors who break up the fights. I personally witnessed my teacher and a hall monitor break up a fight in the cafeteria last Friday. This is crazy. Students need people to connect with and people to talk to. My mom proposed a great idea on the Centennial Facebook, and it suggested we bring in more social workers and counselors. We need that in the middle school and high school. I love talking to my counselors at school, but there's no way that they can get to everyone. Violence doesn't just go away by sending kids to ILC, suspending them, or even just sending them out in the hallway. We have to go further and really understand what they're going through and how we can help them. Mental health matters. Student mental health matters. We need to make some changes in how we address violence in our schools. 1, we need to hire more counselors and social workers instead of officers. 2, we need to give time during the school day to take breaks and focus on student mental health. 3, we need to prioritize student wellness over any tests or work. 4, we need to have student voices present in every single school. Make our schools an environment students enjoy and are excited to come back to. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Sharp.
I think that students have done an amazing job and for the most part summed up exactly what I was here to say. I am a parent of 2 Centennial students. I am on the PTSA, and as a result, many parents of students had my email and phone number. So on both Wednesday occasions, my phone was being lit up when I was at the office because I was fielding communication that the school was not providing. That shouldn't happen. When the school knew that the PA system and the phone systems in those areas were not operational after the first gun incident, they should have been fixed immediately, not waited until the following Thursday when there was a second shooting incident. These are our kids. And I'm getting teared up just listening to them and what they're going through. And if you're saying that they're all your kids, then we need to give them the same respect that we give them when they're our kids. That's communication. There were chairs in the room. I'm just painting a picture for you. We were filled. The chairs disappeared. Why did the chairs disappear? It appeared the chairs disappeared because you didn't want people to get comfortable. You were hoping they didn't stay. That's likely not the case, but lack of communication, that's the optive we saw. So if you don't want misconstrued rumors filling social media and creating the new image of Centennial and Champaign Unit 4, communicate. Do it timely, do it honestly, and I am part of the Kids in Safe School Initiative, which it's a bunch of parents, students, and teachers who are here to support the kids, the administration, and the teachers. We want the schools to be safe. We want the kids to flourish. We want there to be education taking place in school, not violence. I'm glad to hear the Social Justice Initiative. I've worked with Orlando. I've worked with Joe for years. It will be a great process, but it's going to be a transitory process, and until that transition happens over time, there still need to be consequences for bringing guns and weapons into school that are clear, concrete, and accurate. And we have put together a 5-point identification of weaknesses we see, which I'm just going to, oops, sorry, let me pass out. But we're here. All you need to do is activate us. Consider us your National Guard. Thank you.
Cameron McCullough.
Okay. All right, I know you all are trying your best to mitigate the ongoing violent changes within our community and our high school, but as a large part of the student body and a candidate for the sophomore class presidency, I believe it is my duty to share with you some of the issues that we have and how those needs need to be met. One need that we need is to maintain an environment of academic excellency. That is impossible when there's incidents like these that continue to persist in our school and around our school. I originally had planned on sending you all an official letter of all the issues and concerns I had, but I thought it'd be best to come and present it to you. Some of those concerns include, but are not limited to, the metal detectors in our secondary schools, the lockdown procedures, and our communication procedures. As you all know, we had a bomb threat and a school shooting threat last week. My parents did not want us to go to school and have to experience that in person. And same thing with like roughly 50% of the school on Thursday and 75% on Friday, which means that 75% and 50% of people did not believe that you all had the proper procedures in place that could keep us safe. That needs to be changed. Sorry, I had this in order, but I think I put it in the wrong order. A lot of my friends addressed to me, because I was sophomore class president candidate, that they didn't feel safe in our school. Not only because of the fights, but the gun issues, the adding of metal detectors. And I think the metal detectors would have been fine if they weren't randomly placed. If they were done every day and not random, that'd be great, because it would provide us a routine of getting to school early and getting to class efficiently and effectively. I know we can do better. You all know we can do better. We've all seen better. So let's just do better next time.
Thank you, Cameron. Adam Bramowitz. Nicholas Cravens. This is the last card I have in my hand. If there are other cards, need those brought forward. Oh, did he?
Good evening.
That's Miss Rita Connerly.
That's correct. My name's Rita Connerly. I'm a parent. I want to thank each of the students that have come out today. It's a new day for learning, right? Here at Unit 4. But I'm sure each day that these children wake up, the new day that they have to approach school and make the decision on whether or not to go, first of all, and whether or not they'll feel safe. I'm sorry that that is your reality at your school. However, in my community, that's the reality for my children. There needs to be more intention, with good intention, for our children's safety. And it's unfortunate that at the school level, that is our number one focus now, when it should be academics. But how can our children feel safe in a space in which they don't even feel, they can't even focus? They can't focus on their learning daily because they're relying on the social media responses of threats. I want to talk about another issue. While these kids are experiencing metal detectors, I have a daughter at Central High School who can't even access the classroom because she's tardy. I just don't understand why children are not able to access the classroom when they are late. I have a video in my phone, and I do plan on sharing it. But there was a hallway, 30-plus children sitting in the hallway, that festers for violence. That's unacceptable. I reached out to my student, or to the principal. I spoke to someone there, didn't receive a response back. I reached out to the district, anticipated a call back from Dr. Taylor, didn't receive a response back. But let me tell you what happens. When children can't go to the classroom, they're expected to go to school and to start their day and go to the classroom. When they can't, she had a bad day the rest of the day. She had to go and see a counselor, so thankfully that they were available. But it was only because I called and pressured that school that day. How many other parents are doing that? A lot of the times we leave the responsibility up to our children to advocate for themselves. So again, we have to be thankful, especially for these children here, and I encourage you and implore you each to bring a friend with you at the next board meeting. A couple of weeks ago, we were here talking about a bus getting shot. This week, we're here following an incident at the school with shots fired and actually with a bomb threat. That's scary. I received that message from my children. I did not receive a response from Unit 4. We heard 2 weeks ago where a representative from the Teachers Association stated communications are poor, not only internally, but externally. So again, the students have spoken. Listen to the students.
Thank you. Drake Mateer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Drake Mateer, grad student at the U of I, Master of Public Health. I want to commend the students for standing up for themselves when the bureaucracy and the people in power have failed them so. I commend you, young ones, because it's crazy how last year organizations like Pain and Peace and ION were deep in the streets. We mentored them, fighting for the removal of officers in schools. A year later, that fight is still happening, but with more people. That's 2 strikes. That's 2 strikes. 3 strikes, yeah. I implore, I won't say beg, but we demand that you listen to the children now. The power is all in their hands. They are growing up in times where they can clearly see the contradictions of life, the contradictions of racism and capitalism. They can see that they're living in a world where they can probably be accepted more, but the systems at play are actively fighting it. I ask that you all listen. Bring them to the table. Really don't fall just for academia. People in high places that could put numbers together, but can't articulate the feelings, the trauma, the anxiety, the amount of misinformation because of social media, the heightened awareness. These kids are dealing with so much more than what we can even think and fathom. For me to just be 23, that's crazy. I was told I wasn't part of the youth anymore. Oh, God. This is a world that I could never think how I would manage at their age. But I know for a fact that I'll be doing the same thing that they're doing right now, and that is advocating for themselves, advocating for the children that will come behind them so that they can ensure that they have a safe environment for learning, growth, and nurturing. Listen to the kids, organizers, young organizers. Keep on organizing, and we are with you. Like we were last year, we're going to be with y'all today, tomorrow, until we can say our children are safe in schools, finally. Thank you.
Thank you. The last card I have is Leslie Kimball.
I didn't plan on speaking. I came to do a picture. I came to support my girls.
Linda, will you move the, there we go.
Have you ever used a sewing pattern or unfolded a map and then attempted to refold it and it just won't go back neatly in that shape? It's tricky, right? Well, what about a blow-up toy, like a pool toy? We blow it up nice and big and then we're done playing with it and we try as hard as we can to press it back into that original box, into that normal box. We are that unicorn. Our students are that unicorn. Our teachers are that unicorn. We have grown and expanded and formed into this beautiful thing, and it's not meant to be, to be deflated or crammed back into that normal box anymore. We as a community, as a school district, as students and teachers and families at Centennial High School specifically may think we want a normal before COVID, when we didn't have to worry about social media threats, those days when teaching just meant lectures and tests. But we have expanded and grown and are becoming something that won't ever fit in that normal box again. So let's stop trying to cram ourselves into the normal box that was not meant for us. Let's become the school district that pushes the status quo, that sets the example for other schools to follow. Let's stop trying the things that everyone else is trying and they're not working. Let's start doing the things no one has the imagination or bravery to do. Let's keep the big, beautiful unicorn inflated, so to speak. Our students and teachers are asking for alert systems and more mental well-being support, conflict resolution tools. They want more support staff and monitors that know their names, that care about their lives outside of school halls. No more resource officers screaming threats of detention and minor infractions. Please, now. Mind you, I don't hear everyone asking for these things. That would be the status quo. That would be going with the flow to answer this cry for safety with more safety equipment and law enforcement. But that would mean we're trying to shove our school and student body and teachers into a normal box. And that doesn't work anymore. Let's start thinking out of the box. Let's listen to the students and the teachers. It's their school. I'm here to ask you that we all listen to their voice. Let's not shove them into our normal box anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kimball. That was the last card I have. Thank you all for coming and just sitting with us and listening to us as we do our work and then staying and speaking to us. We appreciate your voices. That will move us to item 10, which is board member communications. Kathy Shannon?
I think I said this at the last board meeting, but I want to remind everyone again that we always have mentees, students waiting. We have a waiting list of students who want mentors. This is an excellent way to support our community. There are students who are begging for mentors, and we have a lot of people in the community who want to know what they can do to help. It's a very easy way to help. It's less than an hour a week in our schools, just showing up, just listening, just being delighted to see one of our students. So I want to urge anyone listening, any adults listening, to please look into the CU one-to-one mentoring program.
Thank you, Kathy. Dr. Baker?
Just a couple of things. So thank you to all the schools who were able to hold open houses. I know that parents were incredibly grateful for the opportunity to not only walk into some of the buildings maybe for the first time, but also get to know some of the teachers. I know that I want to go back and take a couple classes myself after meeting some of the teachers and read some of the books. So thank you to all of those that make that opportunity possible. I'd also like to just thank the staff. I know that one of the first things was the Friday football and making sure that our students and our families are safe. And so all the staff, the Unit 4 staff that continue to come out, all the volunteers that come out in their orange vests, it makes it, in a way, it's informal, right? We get to speak with staff members outside of the work that they do every day, and that is extremely, it's appreciated and it's noticed. And so thank you to all of those who continue and will continue as it gets a little bit colder. I also saw Danny Cook back at Central, and it was a very pleasant surprise to see her. I thought that she would fade off into retirement, but she was asked, I think, to come back, and I am appreciative of her and her insight as well. And so thank you to Danny. And then I also noticed that there's sidewalks at Spalding. They're making progress there, and it's nice to see after years and years and years of this referendum space and trying to work with the Park District, there's actually sidewalks. And so I look forward to the other improvements that will happen. And lastly, to push on what Kathy just said, right? I heard earlier, there's a couple of ways that you ask parents to get involved. And one of those are the comment sessions for the ESSER funding, and that's coming up on the 5th and the 12th. And to make sure that if you'd like your voice heard, those are two important ways to help direct where some of that funding is going to go. And then to also make sure that your information is up to date, whether within our registration systems, so that you can, once we get the RAVE pieces up to speed, that you can receive regular information and communication beyond the email or snail mail, as it's very true. It's really true. So yeah, just a couple of comments. Thank you to everyone who's trying every day. We got to show up every day. There's a lot of things happening in our district, but we keep showing up and trying to do the next right thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. Ms. Vasquez?
I think it's important in this night where we're hearing from so many students to really focus on, at the end of what sounds like what we now know is a really incredibly trying week for all of you, to see you all at the Centennial game on Friday night cheering on the team, being in the student section dressed in your absolute best. I think it was Farmer, but I'm not 1,000% sure on that. Thank you for showing up for your classmates. Thank you for making it a space where it can be social after a day, where after weeks, 2 weeks it seems, where you were being asked to make decisions really quickly. What was really lovely to see was you all come back together and celebrate your team and celebrate your collegiality and your classness. You guys being together, showing the freshmen, the underclassmen, the first year, second year, third years, how to be fourth year students is also really admirable. So I congratulate Centennial on a very hard fought game, and I congratulate mostly the students on attending, because it was really very refreshing. We didn't know who would show up. I put that orange vest on and wondered who I would see, and I was really happy to see so many of you. So thank you, especially those who said hi to me in my silly orange vest. You'll see us again this Friday and in coming weeks, so thank you all for being there.
Thank you, Heather. Mr. Brown?
I want to say thank you to each student who came and spoke truth to power. I commend you all, as has already been said, because this is not an easy space to stand up and let your voice be heard. But I do want to say this. I hope that as we go down from this meeting, that one, know that you are heard. Two, know that, or be able to take away from this meeting, that not only were your voices heard, but our superintendent gave a report on the new measures, communication measures that are, if not in place, on their way to being in place. And I personally hate to hear, oh, it's on the way, because I'm here in this seat because of promises that were made and not fulfilled. And so I felt it necessary to be in a space where to help decisions come forth that need to happen. Communication has been an issue in this district for a number of years. We have seen it, well, I've seen it since my tenure on the board. That has been a constant, I want to say, a constant thorn in our side in improving communications to parents, improving in communications to our community, improving communications across the board. The truth of the matter is pressure bust pipes. Some of these things we didn't know were issues until incidents happened. I remember, beyond a year, so pre-pandemic, the outcry that the community had against active shooter drills. It's unconscionable. We knew that post-pandemic that there would be issues that we would have to face, some hard issues that we'd have to face in our buildings. It was unconscionable for us to know and even think that such violence would happen so soon. We voted on those drills. We fought to make sure that those things were in place, but nobody knew that we would need them the first week, 2 weeks of school. So I'm asking for just a little grace. Please know that we have your best interests at heart. I am a Centennial parent. I live a couple blocks from the building. So everything that you felt, I was feeling too. When my son is texting me, when my wife is asking me what's going on, when I'm fielding phone calls while I'm trying to teach at work. So please know, it is not lost on us. Oftentimes people want to call us out for the positions that we hold as bureaucracy, but please know we are not removed from any decision that is made in this district, that we feel it, we hear it, it is at the core of the decisions that we make. I am so thankful that we even have an opportunity for a social service agency such as IBAR to be involved in the work that is needed to happen for years. I was part, the consent decree that people talk about, I was part of the school class that the data was pulled from. So I saw it firsthand. And so I'm going to stop there. I just want to say you are being heard. Your issues are being addressed. Please do not let a narrative be put in your ear that we don't care and that we're making decisions that are best for. We are making decisions that are best for all of our students. And we take it home. It keeps us up at night. It keeps us from our families. It keeps us from different relationships, because we want to make sure that we are putting not only you, but those who come behind you in the best position possible. There's no way of pleasing everybody, but we are working to put the necessary pieces in place to not only make sure that our buildings are safe, but that quality education takes place. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. I want to thank you, Dr. Boozer, and our administrators and our teachers and our staff. It's been hard on all of you. It shows. And to Bruce's point, 2 of my children were also released and walking down Kirby in the middle of that mess. So we do feel it. We are parents, 14 children among us in different campuses. And so we feel it, we see it, we hear it. And there are children that actually work out in the community. They're not just at our school buildings. And this violence is affecting us not just at our schools, it's in our community. And we are working with the city. There are lots of people at the table that want to help, and your voices matter. And they carry weight to the work and the decisions that we have to make. So thank you all for sitting with us tonight. And thank you for the hard work everyone's doing. Any other board comment? I do want to remind us that flu shots are available. I know nobody really wants to hear about shots right now, but flu shots, we got ours as a family Saturday. They're drive-through clinics. They're easy, they're accessible.
We have a clinic for our staff tomorrow.
A flu clinics for a staff at Unit 4 tomorrow. I just want a reminder of that.
Immunizations.
Oh, the immunization deadline is when? October 1st. So all immunizations for our students need to be up to date. That will move us to item 11, which is our report. Whom did we affect and whom do we tell? We passed the budget for Miss Linda to put in with the state. Oh yeah, everybody needs to sign those too. They're on the documents out here on the front. And the iBarge contract for becoming a restorative justice district was approved this evening, and I think we're all looking forward to that work. Anything else? I'll move us to item 12, which is future meetings. There is a regular board meeting October 11th, October 25th, and November 8th. There is no reason to go back into executive session. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Soteropoulos Vasquez. Tammy, would you call roll?
Ms. Soteropoulos?
Yes.
Ms. Vasquez?
Yes.
Ms. Armstrong?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Kloppel?
Yes.
Ms. Shan?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. We are adjourned at 9:20.